what's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yes, that still can't be true. Was very successful, except for the fire part. I screwed that up. I cut up a beer can, and I made 2 inches high. I made too high because the sticks were like slanting downward into the bed center. I screwed that one up. The fire was okay at first. You'll see in the video. I end up documenting half an hour for that. After the fire went out, I drank my second beer, I had the third beer. I ended up falling asleep on the bench, used my backpack as a pillow. Then I got woke up by the birds about 4:30 in the morning. I saw the breaking light. So I was like, I'm out of here because I know what the park's going to I definitely would do that again, I'll tell you that. I had a fun do time, but there's some things I do. I'd like to find maybe a sleeping bag, kitchen sleeping bag for maybe stealthy camp videos and stuff like that. It doesn't get too cold like some people do their stealth videos, like it's like 0 or -10. It doesn't get cold. The only time it ever gets cold in winter time. This time of year it gets like down to 50. You need a sleeping bag, maybe get like a plastic bag or a sheet, if you found it, but don't get cold. I just wanted to do the fire, because go camping, get up a campfire. So why not? So yeah, oh no, I say that's a pretty good system. I'll definitely do that again very soon. But the fire, you'll see the video. I'll release maybe later tonight. Tomorrow I'll make it to the premiere. Yeah, I got clips too. My self-kept video with tacos. You're in the background with the cops, and I'm recording another video. Yeah, it's about having a good time, huh? Stealthy style, just about, yeah. The party. And I didn't want to make the fire big because I tried to make it small because at the spot I was at, there's headlights coming around, and I'm out of range, and they were clearing branches out of a tree, so they moved the bench in that area. So I was hoping behind the tree a little bit. I said forward, but yeah. But yeah, that's about it. It's having fun, stealthy, and being adventurous. Definitely do it again. I'd like to maybe do a bus stop with a stealth video, a golf course one, a park, behind a sign kind of stuff. Maybe the woods stealthy. The park down where I'm at would be a good one. I wouldn't do an open air. I'd go down by the creek, do a stealth video, maybe do a little fire, get a container down there, or maybe, I wouldn't drink the creek water, it's dirty. Maybe mistake one time, many years ago, I took the creek water, drank it up, saying, hey, it's creek water, fresh water. Yeah, well, guess what? I had to run that fucking hour later. Nope, can't do that. Nope. To the mountaintop, you can do it, but you can't do the city. Or water. So yeah, I like to go maybe down the road, down the creek down there, real close, lay low. Get a sleeping bag or like that, see the stars. Because it doesn't get cold around here. It really doesn't. I don't need a tan or like stuff like that. Or a baby tan. Like people sit and say. I think it'd be kind of awesome to try and do that. Go find a sleeping bag down there, just hitch it on my backpack, get some gear down there. I don't need one of those wood stove because there's so many stores around here. You can get takeout food for TV. You go down to the gas station, get corn dogs, and there you go. That's your pretty stealthy video. Burritos. For me, I'll get a sandwich, snack on there. Like the salads for one. Although they don't get too much dressing, but you can make do what you gotta do. Sandwiches and stuff like that. But yeah, I think a video down the creek, and plus you can take water down there, get a container, process it. That's what you do. Like survival, you take water down the creek, you take a container, you process it, let it boil, and all of a sudden get your water. I would love to try that one time. Take the creek water from each creek down there when I do it, maybe stealth video one of these days. Take a container, process it, throw in some like Kool-Aid or something like that and make it special. But that, how it is. So anyways, yeah. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Friday, happy day, holiday for the wicked. Listen, man, I know it's Friday. I know this. I know you smoke weed. I know this. But you get a job, you got shit to do. Let's smoke some bud, smoke some reefer. But anyway, the reason why I went live to show some case questions, yeah, I went over my what I had a good time with doing SoCam last night. But we're gonna roll some case question clips. We're gonna start with this. Well, let's have some fun, shall we? Like this.
Sorry, we're closed. Well, what are all these people doing here? Drinking and having a good time. Well, that's why we're here. You're too stupid to have a good time. Well, that's why we're here. You're too stupid to have a good time. Well, that's why we're here. You're too stupid to have a good time.
Yeah, people like fucking fell on and said, hey, real rock and roll. Yeah, get the fuck out of here, so have a good time. Yeah. Hey, NTL, OTL, you're too stupid to have a good time. The only time you have a good time when you sucking dick on fucking floors and you cheating on Ephraim, dumb bitch. Boop. All right, we got something here. Check this out. Yeah.
Tag for a stolen vehicle. That vehicle was allegedly a Challenger and a silver Challenger at that with a different license plate tag. Lanisha's driving to go hang out with some friends to celebrate senior week, and she's pulled over. If you notice on the video, the first thing that Officer Kayla Wallace references is that's not it.
Exactly, but they went through it. They fucked up.
She pulled out her vehicle. She's told to walk backwards to the sound of her voice with guns drawn on her.
Yeah, drawn's gone. Check this out. This is her.
Photographs we have are because her voice with guns drawn on her. She was never even asked for a license and registration, the common decency that you would see somebody have when they are generally pulled over. And these photographs we have are because she wasn't treated with the decency of the beautiful young soul that she is when she was pulled over, so that the media and people can see who she was. Of course, she was not treated with that dignity. She was not treated with that respect. And
she got treated like fucking shit.
On the side of the street.
And she had ever had to curse at him, tell him they're wrong, because she knows her father was killed by the police. So she had every right to curse at him, because exercise your First Amendment free speech with profanity is still protected free speech.
And she was left angry, traumatized, not knowing what to do. And when she went to her family, thankfully her mother and her grandmother, her aunts, they came to the city of Myrtle Beach to get some answers to figure out what happened. And a report really wasn't generated in this until over a week later. Not once was a report generated, despite there being public contact laws for law enforcement departments. Whenever they make contact with a citizen and there's not an arrest or detainment, they're supposed to get that information and give the citizen a report. That did not happen here. And here's where we are now. What we're seeking is full justice and accountability for everything that Lanisha has gone through, this traumatizing experience that is sticking with her today, and she's going to have to relive for the rest of her life, unfortunately. And on top of that, there needs to be a complete training of the law enforcement department on citizens' interactions and lawful stops. When you draw a weapon on somebody, in today's climate too, with open carry, constitutional carry, you don't know what you're going to come into. Any one wrong move could be a life and death situation. So there needs to be a complete overhaul of the training, and there needs to be some accountability with the license plate reader technology that cities utilize. If this is AI driven, I mean, you would think that the first thing you would do is check the license plate. In fact, on video,
run the tag for her name, or they ask what her name is.
Even check my license plate before they made an arrest, before they pulled her out of the vehicle. That should have been done immediately. And then they should have went to her vehicle and asked, hey, will you step out? So I know that some of her tribe, her village wants to speak about, from a personal, familial perspective, of what Lanisha's gone through and who she is as a person. So I'll step aside from there, and then we'll take some questions from the media if y'all have some. So whoever would like to speak first is welcome to do so. And I have her uncle here.
Here's her uncle.
Former Judge Cox, who wants to talk about her daughter, his niece. My name is Aaron, Dr. Aaron Cox. I am the great-grand uncle of Lanisha. I got to tell you all, whenever I first got the phone call that this had occurred, um, I was shocked, um, but I had mixed emotions because I was thinking, thank God that she is alive and she's okay.
Yeah.
But then the more I learned and the more I reflected on it and thought about it, I got angry. And I
Don't
got
blame you.
angrier and angrier. So what I want to tell you is that from my
No, that they had
perspective,
her on her knees. They treated her like
I
a
have
fucking
been
piece of
in
shit,
law
like a lap
enforcement
dog.
for over
And
34
treated her like
years.
crap.
And I've been a state trooper in this state. I've worked in all levels of the criminal justice system, including policing, the courts, and corrections. And since 1998, I taught, and I taught law enforcement officers. I taught use of force. I taught constitutional law, criminal law, arrest, search, and seizure. I'm very familiar with what should have happened. And the more I learned what didn't happen. And so that really sets the stage of how the family is feeling, I think. So I need to talk to you about the family and Lanisha. Because if I talk to you about me and how I'm feeling, it's a lot different. Because I'm more than mad, okay? But this has totally, just think about it. I want you to just imagine. We are in a beach community. We grow up here.
Myrtle
This is where we
Beach.
live. And we enjoy the beach. So a lot of times you put on your beach clothing. It's hot outside. You're going to go to the beach and relax. You're driving to the beach and you've done nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong.
She
And
did
all
nothing
of a
wrong.
sudden,
She was going to
police
her friend's
surround you,
house.
barricade you, and they're with guns drawn on you. And they're telling you, get out of your car and to walk back to them backwards. All of these
Then they tell her
commands,
to get
and
on her
you're
knees
just
and
like,
cuff
what
her.
is
For
happening?
what?
What is going on? And they put you in handcuffs. And they really don't explain
They don't.
what is happening and what's going on. They're not
All they
answering
tell
any
her is that,
questions.
oh,
She's
your
asking
car is possibly
questions, but they're
stolen.
not answering
Really?
the questions. And then when they find out, oh, we got the wrong vehicle,
We
they
got the
just say,
wrong
go.
one. They still are treated like a piece
You
of
can
fucking
leave now.
shit.
That's a traumatic
Disgusting.
event.
Disgusting.
I remember the first ticket I received at 17 years old. I was shaking. I was nervous. I had never had any interaction with police before. Think about her situation. She done nothing wrong. When they stopped me back then, I was speeding. They should have stopped me. They had a right to stop me. She did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. And then she was put through this traumatic event that she is having to deal with emotionally, um, just having to just graduate in high school where she should be really thinking about the next chapter in her life and what she's going to do. And all of that's turned upside down because now she's just trying to figure out where she is in this world and why this world reacted to her. People that should have been her protectors treated her like less than a human. So she's having to deal with the trauma of the incident, um, the distrust that she now has, and she probably be dealing with this for a long time. Her anxiety, uh, her just her how does she react to law enforcement or anybody in authority that comes around her? So this event has, for right now, changed her, um, her demeanor, how she acts and responds to family members, how she interacts with her friends, her social life, how she's dealing with just living at 18 years old. And why? Because the police didn't do stuff right from the beginning. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lanisha's grandmother. I'm Janet. My baby was always outgoing and TikToks and, you know, friends. Hey, just the life of the party in the house, like around us. We're happy. She's changed. All that has changed. She's not the same anymore. She's quiet. She's off to herself. She's distant. I want something done to protect our children. They're not protecting our children. You don't treat a young child this way. I mean, all you had to do was run the plate.
Yep.
It would have told you about her, the car, everything you needed to know. You would have found out about had you run. Didn't even know her name at the end of the day.
Didn't even ask her.
Didn't even ask it. It was a week later when they found out what her name was.
You
I
know
just
what?
want
And
help.
all they did was assume.
We're looking for
You know what
justice
assumption
for
is?
this.
A
Because this has
motherfucker!
actually
Come
destroyed my
on!
grandchild.
Remember the
Traumatized,
movie Under Siege, Dark
mentally,
Terry?
physically,
Who was the
emotionally.
one that said that?
And I just
Travis
want help.
Dade.
And this man right here, my
Assumption
uncle,
as a
our family,
motherfucker.
is going to get it. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak? Any questions from the media?
Can I have you guys, both of them just say and spell their first and last
Sure.
name for the record?
Say and spell your first name.
My name?
Yes, ma'am.
Janet, Janet Hemingway, Hemingway.
Dr. Cox. I am Dr. Aaron Cox. That's Aaron. Last name Cox.
Thank you.
I think one question I hope that people seeing this and reading about this and watching the video will wonder is, why did she not receive the common decency you expect when pulled over by law enforcement officers? And even after that, they should have immediately, once this made its way up the chain of command, reached out, brought her in, apologized, asked if they could offer counseling services. What can we do to help you recover from this? Because guns were drawn on her.
Yeah.
I mean, coming up
And
her
she felt
age,
like
and
her life was in danger.
she's seen the
She
Michael
felt like they were
Sterlings,
going to
the
shoot her.
Trayvon Martin stories. Her father was tragically killed
Yeah.
by gun violence, so she knows what repercussions can happen when guns are drawn. And unfortunately,
George
here
Floyd,
it seems
Breonna
like
Taylor.
the officers were just going about business as usual. There was nothing significant or important or that what
Fiery
mattered
Nichols.
about what Lanisha went through that day. So that's what we're here to get, is justice and accountability here. And we hope the city of North Myrtle Beach will do everything possible to try to make it right. So far, they have not done that at all. And if it wasn't for her family who went to the department to get some answers, we wouldn't even have this information today, that we're able to bring this lawsuit to get some vindication and some accountability. So we appreciate y'all for coming here to listen and make sure that this gets some attention, so there could be some real change, because there needs to be some change. And not only does change need to be had, Lanisha deserves some justice here.
What kind of response have you gotten from the police after the incident?
Nothing. No response.
Even when the family went to the police department, what was that interaction?
Well, me describing the interactions would have been rude when initially her mother and I believe grandmother went up there to the department to get some answers. They were told in a kind of a matter-of-fact, off-putting way that she's a grown woman. She needs to come up there and get the answers because she's 18, but she's a high school student. There's high school students who are 19 years old living with their parents. If this was anybody else, I believe, who may have looked differently, there may have been a different respect that was shown, because when her mother, her grandmother went up there, no answers were given, and they didn't have this. It wasn't even documented or reported. It wasn't until later they had to go back and start asking questions to figure out what happened on that day. If they would have done what they were supposed to do, there would have been a report initially. So there's been no response from anybody with authority at the City of North Myrtle Beach or City of North Myrtle Beach Police Department who've tried to reach out to the family, who have extended any sort of sympathy for what Lanisha's going through. And she's had to take it this far to get any sort of accountability.
Do you know if there's any sort of investigation into any of these officers involved?
I do not have an answer to that question yet, but I do know that there's a report of it. There's several different body camera footage from Kayla Wallace, who was the initial officer who made the stop. But I believe is Mike Pasillo. And excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his last name. I would say they did not ask Lanisha's last name. So if I mispronounced it, I do apologize about that. But he also has body camera footage from when he drew his weapon on Lanisha because the vehicle stopped in front of her while she was driving, and then guns were drawn on the front and back along with another officer making some directions. So I'm not sure if there's been any investigation. I do know that the department has all dash cam video and body camera video of the incident from the stop and any other interactions between the family and law enforcement following the incident.
So besides the family going into the police department, was there any other interaction at all, any follow-up calls, anything like that, or not?
No, not at all.
When are you anticipating the lawsuit will be formally filed?
So the lawsuit was filed yesterday. And so I'm anticipating the courts will send us back a stamped copy, which will show the official case caption. But the lawsuit is filed. We've already publicly circulated the final version of that lawsuit. So the only thing that will be changed will be there will be a case caption assigned to it.
How many officers were involved in the stop?
There were at least 3 officers involved in the stop.
How many people?
At least 3. And really, you have 2 officers who seem to have drawn weapons on her, and one officer that was kind of directing
it's the wrong one. But when her fellow officer, so she had to go along with her fellow blue and law.
I think the officers need some training here.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Even if it's a good cop says,
"Oh man,"
but if we're going to be utilizing more technology,
but we got a bad
like license plate readers, you still have to have a human element that's there.
So if
a license plate reader tells you that this vehicle, whatever vehicle may be involved in the crime, common sense says, well, read the license plate of the car you pull over. I mean, there needs, if we have to train to that level, we should train to that level. I think there needs to be some accountability, especially when it comes down to the public contact reports. And if it turns out that the department is not honoring their public contact obligations, there needs to be training on that as well. Because anytime you have a citizen who's pulled over by a law enforcement officer, if you think back to the drafting of these bills, it was before there was body camera footage. And so if there was no body camera footage of what happened, and she received no report, there would be no public accountability unless the officers admitted that they were, in fact, the ones who stopped a person. So that there needs to be training on that because those rules exist for a reason. They exist so, one, there's accountability to the public, and there's some transparency to the individual who stopped. Because years ago, before there was body cameras, before there was any of this, officers could stop somebody, do whatever they wanted to, and the person drive off. And if nobody believed them, nobody believed them. Luckily, here there was dash cam footage and body camera footage, because if there wasn't, really all that existed was Lanisha's story to her family, informing me of that story, and us getting our hands on that footage.
And you got cops still to say, they got body camera, dash cam, but they're to say, oh, I feared my life.
No, but
I had to do what I had to do.
That,
call from me, we'll back them up.
Lanisha had experience, which was may have been a little bit of a day on the job for the officers.
They don't give a fuck.
It's going to be a lifetime of something.
They don't give a shit to go to jail.
Lanisha has to grapple with. Most
people, it's all about our safety. Unless we go home to our family. Fuck that shit. That's why I say, fuck the blue and fuck the police.
Hopefully, as she grows, may have a son or daughter of their own. What type of story does this help with police trust and accountability in the community, right? When she's gone through this and she tells her friends about what happened to her, and the story goes on, that it doesn't help try to mend the breach that exists in society today. And so we hope, we pray and we hope that she gets the help that she needs, because it's going to take therapy. It's going to take, some true healing for her to move on for this.
I mean, you get pulled over, drawn you by cops, it's going to traumatize you. I've been there.
Her own personal history of gun violence, her having the experience of her own.
It fucking affects you. It really does.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, let's get on here with the main thing I want to roll. That was a good one. Okay. We're going to do this. Here we go. Ooh, that's nice and cold. I like that. I fucking love that. That TV there really helped the number. Here we go. Oh, okay. Let me do this. Yeah. Gabapatino. Let's do it, baby. I'm glad I brought that out. That TV there. This one's fucking cold. It's better that way. It don't need to be too cold, but it's keeping it about 40 degrees, better than 80 and heating up. There we go.
The FBI could say, here you go,
All
100
right.
pages here, 100 pages there, or 366 pages on a random Monday in June 2024. Hello there, folks. JB here with you,
Oh, here goes the
live
good
in the
stuff.
Stream Center. For those of you joining us
Sit
live,
back and
welcome
enjoy,
into
baby.
the YouTube live comment section. We're going to be live on Facebook here soon. We're also live on heyjb.live, where you can submit VIP comments. Also, of note, if you want to read more about this story, if you're playing catch up, you can read the article right now. I wrote it actually last night. The title of the article related to the new evidence that has been released by the FBI. Loaded revolver, speed loader, and arrows found near Gabby Petito's remains by federal agents back in 2021. The article, of course, containing that new information, and we're going to break it down here live from the Stream Center. Also want to note
like Jeffrey
that on Twitter,
Epstein. What did he do?
I
He don't want us out.
Just like the FBI's release.
Brian Epstein.
If you want to follow along, we're going to go through the document. If you want to follow along at home and go through the pages with me and see it for yourself, you can. Just go over to my Twitter, at WFLAJB. You'll see the link to the PDF from the FBI vault, and you'll be able to kind of scroll through it and see that evidence for yourself. For people that have been following this case for so long, you might want to actually have that PDF with you as you go through this evidence with me for the first time. Just like there's a lot of images here, and also just a lot of information that we had no clue about. And what's interesting about this is that I'm talking with various people associated with the story last night, and a lot of this stuff is brand new. I mean, not even the inner circles of this story did people really know some of the details in these documents. This is brand new stuff that the FBI is releasing. And yes, this is a result of a FOIA request. FOIA standing for Freedom of Information Act. And reporters like myself and journalists across the country submit FOIA requests all the time, basically trying to gain access to documents that can be released to the public. But as I noted earlier, FOIA requests are so mysterious because you just never know when a FOIA request is going to be delivered upon. There are cases that have outstanding FOIAs going, 5-10 years. So you just never know
when the FBI is going to say, all right, let's release this. We feel like now is the appropriate time to do so. There's clearly a system, a queue. I've never fully understood it, just being honest. And but it was yesterday when all of a sudden 366 brand new pages in the Gabby Petito case became released or was released to the public.
Brand new that film
national media, of course, getting their hands in on it right away. I was reading through the document basically all night long, trying to comb through, circle, and highlight new details. And really, a lot of the stuff that jumped off the page to me came in the back end of the document. And let's start there with the headline on this live stream, the banner on the bottom of your screen. We're talking, of course, about what was found near Gabby Petito's remains at Grand Teton National Park back in the area where her remains were found back in September of 2021. Now, near her remains was a loaded revolver speed loader. And I want to show that here first, before we actually get to the document. I want to show that image because they have a picture of it in the FBI release. The imagery in this document is laughably bad in some respects because they're high quality photos, but they've been clearly scanned into a PDF and then uploaded, and just all the hoops that they went through to get it from the actual origin photo to a public release. It's just the quality has decreased so much that this is basically what we are looking at. But it certainly was interesting that we are finding out about this for the first time 3+ years or so, no, around 3 years later, that a loaded, or I'll read it here, revolver speed loader with ammunition located near the human remains believed to be Petito. And so that was, of course, something that jumped off the page. Brian Laundrie having in his possession or owning a total of 3 firearms, including a revolver that that, according to, of course, investigators, he took from his home when he left the home in September of 2021 and went into the Carlton Reserve, where he would ultimately take his own life with that revolver, a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. There was also a lot of ammunition, but very interesting that a revolver speed loader with ammo in it was found near Gabby's remains. And then arrows as well. And another thing that we're going to see in the document is pictures of what appears to be a crossbow that was collected by the FBI over the course of one of their many search warrants in this case. And the arrows that were found near the remains, the final resting place of Gabby Petito, just is something we didn't know before.
Have fun, ladies.
And I've spent a lot of hours thinking about exactly all the different scenarios, and we will get into this with our live audience here in a little bit. Want to also point out that I'm going to be joined by Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom, who's actually in New York, helping for, of course, a fundraiser there in New York at present. And she will be joining me at 2 o'clock Eastern. It was originally going to be 1:30, and they just texted me a little bit before the stream began saying, JB, it's probably going to be closer to 2 o'clock. So that gives us a good opportunity here as we wait for Nicole to come into the Zoom room and join us on stream, a good opportunity for us to kind of break down the evidence. There's no way we're going to be able to go through all 366 pages together on this live stream. We'll be live until about 3 o'clock. It's just not possible. This is actually page 1 of the document, and we're going to try to hit some of the highlights. But again, I tweeted out a link to the PDF if you would like to read it for yourself and come to your own conclusions. There's also a mystery regarding the mattress that was in the camper that went on the cross-country road trip. Some curious details there, as well as a love letter that Gabby wrote to Brian that has been, of course, really the massive headline that people are finding most often on social media right now is this love letter that Gabby wrote to Brian. There's just a lot to unpack here, and we're going to do our very best to do so over the next 15 minutes before Nicole joins the live stream. And I'm actually seeing here that Nicole might actually not be alone as far as joining the Zoom. So we'll see who else pops in from Gabby's family. All right, so we're going to start going through this document. And you can clearly see the header here that the FBI is at the top of your screen. And you know what? Can we make this a little larger? I think we can. Can we make it a little bigger? Let's see if we can. A little easier to read. Let's see if I click on stand by. I think that's pretty good. All right, let's start to comb through this document, and we'll try to hit some of the highlights. And for some reason, my mouse is liking to jump through this a little bit too fast. But what you're going to come across in the first section of the PDF is, I'm going to try to do my best to summarize this as best as possible. Some of the formative documents here are from the beginning of the missing persons case that was opened when Gabby was originally reported missing, the FBI getting involved. You can see here on this particular screen, Suffolk County Police Department, Detective Redacted, contacting the Federal Bureau of Investigation, New York Operations Center to provide associated information regarding Guardian Redacted. And these are some of the earliest documents from when the FBI got involved with the Gabby Petito case. Now, the FBI getting involved pretty early on, to no surprise, because we're talking about a missing persons case that isn't just growing in exposure, but also covering a lot of different jurisdictions. This is a story that spans a couple dozen states when you look at all of the different stops that Gabby and Brian made on their cross-country road trip in the summer of 2021. I mean, we're talking about originally leaving from Florida, driving up to New York, and then starting from New York and going all the way out west, winding up in towards Yellowstone in Wyoming. And then Brian, of course, then completing the triangle, coming back southeast and arriving back home in Northport, Florida, without his fiancee, Gabby Petito, who, of course, was then promptly reported missing by Gabby's family. So what you're going to see in a lot of these documents, and it's, again, we could probably do a 6-hour live stream and not be able to make it through all of it, is the FBI piecing together the timeline and the geography of all of this. I mean, literally receiving tips and then those tips being put together to establish an idea as to where Gabby and Brian were, when they got separated, and how it led to Brian returning home in the van, in Gabby's van, without his fiance. You're also going to see a lot of white boxes. See this here? As we're on page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All these white boxes are redactions. FBI blocking out, and this is commonplace with FOIA results, blocking out details that are still not cleared for public consumption, not cleared, and probably will never be cleared for the public. Just paragraphs of information. And sometimes certain names, you'll see phone numbers, credit card information, all of these different things that are considered to be more sensitive information that will be redacted in a federal document like this. But so here's an example of what we're looking at with some of the pages here early on. And a lot of this is pertaining to where Gabby and Brian were in August into September, or where Brian was into September. And quite literally, you can almost envision at FBI Tampa or FBI Denver a massive board where they were quite literally putting together all the stops along the way on the cross-country trip and how it led back to Northport, Florida. So you'll see here, here's a perfect example. From Idaho Falls, Idaho, if you want all of the video from each of the 3 Walmart stores, you're going to have to send somebody to the store. It's being held there for you. Here's just some of the email exchanges that are taking place as they are trying to collect video evidence of the camper van that was used by Gabby and Brian, Gabby's van, and the stops that it made along the way, and collecting evidence to prove that it was, in fact, at these various locations. You're also going to see, let's see here as we scroll through. So here's a federal email or an FBI email. All attached is a summary of the work we've been doing the past few days with regard to the video canvas across the country for Laundrie's trip from Wyoming to Florida. If you have any questions, please let me know. We're coordinating with local jurisdictions and field offices across the country to get copies of the video surveillance and make them accessible for us to view. We will keep you updated if there's any changes, on and on. We are currently on page 39 for those of you following at home, by the way. So again, we're going to breeze through this section because a lot of this is now pertaining to transactions. Here we have on September 17, 2021, Special Agent Redacted again conducted an interview at the Casey's General Store located at 1003 West Main Street in Benton, Illinois. Agents able to confirm the correct time and location of the gas purchase after the case agent spoke with Casey's corporate. The receipt for the transaction was $28 and either 38 or 30 cents, and indicated that the transaction was for gasoline at pump number 3. This is Brian in the camper, and you're going to see some images here in a moment. Brian in Gabby's van, just filling up gas on the way home to Northport, Florida. So let's kind of move ahead, because a lot of the stuff is going to get repetitive with piecing together Brian's whereabouts. Here's a snapshot. This is not a video. You can't really click on it, but this is a snapshot from one of the videos showing the van itself. Scrolling forward here, there's also going to be a lot of interviews with people that had taken pictures along the way, and people that had, come across Gabby or Brian, or claimed to come across Gabby and Brian on their trip. And a lot of these interviews with people, I just want to make sure I'm bringing up the chat here. I want to pay attention to the chat here as I'm talking. A lot of multitasking, but I'm going to do my very best to pay attention to your comments as they come in, and also go through this. But a lot of people that were interviewed by the FBI and by local police said that they knew that they had come across Gabby and Brian. They remember the Let It Be tattoo. The Let It Be tattoo is referenced at least half a dozen times in this document as being an identifying characteristic for Gabby. The Let It Be tattoo would later become really a call to action for Gabby's family. They all got Let It Be tattoos, and they used that, of course, as a rallying cry for justice, if you will. So I see Spacey in the comment section. Did they stop in Utah? Yes. Moab is one of the infamous stops on the trip. A lawsuit is still pending in Moab, and so don't want to get too much into that, but let's continue going through the document here. So here's an example of some of the snapshots now. This is the FBI doing their due diligence, collecting as much evidence as possible. It's kind of hard to see here. I want to scroll up just a smidge. Will you let me kind of move up just a little bit? Okay, here's a better shot. So top left-hand portion of your screen, there's Gabby's van. And this is one of the snapshots of Brian's trip home to Northport, Florida. And again, the FBI putting together his exact journey, stop by stop, and even going as far to collect video evidence to show that Brian was in fact in this spot on the trip home. None of this is particularly groundbreaking. We all knew that Brian had made it home. He came home from Wyoming. He made it home to Northport, Florida. He did it without Gabby. Gabby is never seen in any of these, obviously, because Gabby has, at this point, been killed by Brian, and is out in the wilderness in Grand Teton National Park. Scrolling through this here, some of the inside, outside images, some of the corresponding documents that go with these video snapshots, search warrant details, and we'll keep scrolling along here. Okay, now we're getting to evidence, pictures that the FBI snapped of evidence that was collected over the course of the execution of several search warrants. There was, of course, the search warrant that was executed on the vehicle itself when Gabby's van was taken away and brought to the Northport Police Department for a thorough examination, a thorough search. There was also a search warrant that was executed at the Laundry home, I believe the second or third week of September, when FBI agents went into the home and collected belongings. And we're going to get into some of those belongings, because some of those belongings certainly jump off the page. But here's a picture of a lot of rings. This is a picture that's going to come up quite a bit. This is a box holding ammunition and what appears to be brass knuckles.
Hey, ladies, are you having fun?
Here
Scotty,
is the DJI drone that Brian and Gabby used on their trip. Again, more images of the ammunition in that box.
Come on, ladies. Report me to cop.
Let's see here.
Scotty, fellow mom.
Arrows.
Principal fucking
arrows that
boy.
we would later find out in the document.
Come on.
Arrows that were found near Gabby's remains.
Come on, cry your mama.
In
Report me to cops.
Wyoming.
Give me
No
arrested.
Country for Old Men
Come
book.
on. You guys are fucking weak as fuck.
Fine. Because there's one image here that I didn't know about.
You guys got nothing. Blowhard, weak pussy.
Difficult to scroll through. Stand by. Here's some of Gabby's belongings: a hairbrush, some books. Okay, hold on. Can I scroll through this? There's a receipt.
Shall we?
There it is. Okay, check this
go.
out. I was unfamiliar. See? It's jumping all over the place. Everybody, apologies. Technology is not my friend today, apparently.
Doing it.
That's a little simpler. Apologies for all the flashing images. Doing a lot here at once. Okay, here's what appears to be a crossbow with a scope on it. And that, of course, ties into the arrows that were found as well. Let's see here, folks. I want to take a moment because the time is now 1:55, and I believe that I am not alone here in the Stream Center, at least virtually. Let's see if I can bring in. Yes, I absolutely can. With hopefully good signal, if we're lucky enough. Nicole, Tara, do you have me?
Hi. Hey.
Hey, you guys.
Can you hear us okay?
I think I can hear you okay. Guys, in the chat, can I get a thumbs up here if you guys can hear Nicole and Tara joining us here? Guys, I'm just going to record on your interview and make sure that we have it.
Trying to set up, sorry. There we go. Okay.
All right, let's bring in everybody.
Yeah, baby.
There's Nicole and Tara. Guys, how are you?
We are doing okay. It's beautiful up here in New York right now. So.
Yeah, we're actually at the golf course right now, where we're hosting our event on Friday. We're up at the clubhouse, so it is actually beautiful.
Why don't we just start right there before we get into what we were just combing through with the document? Why don't you guys just tell us a little bit about the fundraiser, what you guys have going on Long Island in New York today, and its purpose.
So we're hosting our first annual golf outing, which will be on Friday between 1 and 5 is golf, and then a golf outing afterwards. A reception for dinner afterwards. We have a lot of great prizes. Unfortunately, right now it is sold out, but we do have one amazing raffle that we are doing online. It's 2 gold VIP passes to CrimeCon 2025. And then along with that, you get the 2 hotel rooms at the Gaylord Rockies. We're selling those for $25 a piece. So if you can't obviously make it to the golf event, you can still join and help us out by purchasing a raffle ticket.
100% of the proceeds go to us. They were donated by CrimeCon. So if you buy 1 ticket or 10 tickets, it's all going up.
Yeah.
For those of you
and CrimeCon actually did a sponsorship here for us as well. So they will have some representatives here too. So
very generous.
Very generous.
This is phenomenal. And this is all being done by the Gabby Petito Foundation, correct?
Yes.
All right. Nicole, for those of you just joining us, and we're now live on Facebook as well, now live across all platforms, JD here with you in the Stream Center alongside Gabby Petito's mother, stepmother, Tara Schmidt, Tara Petito, Nicole Schmidt joining us here. And guys, we were just all together a couple of weeks ago. And Nicole, I was in the room when you read the victim impact statement. Tara, I remember yours as well with the burn after reading shirts that you guys were wearing. I remember how much obviously meant for you both to be able to read your victim impact statements when, of course, you consider that Brian Laundrie never made it to court. Never really had the
Brian Laundrie, I'm gonna lie to yourself. We all know why he did it. Because he's fucking guilty of killing Gabby. Because he's a piece of shit, deadbeat scumbag. He took the east way out. just like Jeffrey Epstein did. Hung himself in jail prison sentence to face the fucking wrath of molesting, raping, gymnastic woman. Yeah.
Or more closure that you have had in a long time. And then here we are, it's not even a couple of weeks later, and on a Monday in June, here we are, the FBI releases 360 plus pages of new information. And a lot of this, as I've been talking with you guys back and forth over the last 24 hours, a lot of this is stuff that you've never seen before. So I know that you wanted to chat today. What was something that, was there anything about the document that kind of caught you off guard, something that you were really surprised by?
I was surprised that it was released at all. It was like shocking to us. We started kind of skimming through it. We really didn't get to read it in detail, but I have people sending me information, and there was a few things in there that we, obviously some objects and stuff that we have that belong to Gabby that we knew about. But some of the reports, the sightings and such, the letter that, one of the letters that Gabby had written was very shocking. It just showed us more that she just was trying so hard to earn love from somebody that
I know.
not being very caring to her.
It showed that he was manipulating her.
He sure was.
Definitely abuse.
At one time, Gabatino wrote a letter how abusive Brian Laundrie was. That was true.
These types of letters to Brian, and also to something that is noted throughout the document is the validity of the dates and when exactly some of these letters were written back and forth. What did you find so shocking, Nikki, about the actual letter itself?
Just I feel her pain in there, and it hurts me to know that she was being manipulated in a way to think that she wasn't good enough for someone, and that she had to apologize.
She was abused.
Oh,
Cappuccino
okay.
was
So
she was in deep.
That's what happens when Zoom. You lose connection with somebody. So we'll come back out here in the Stream Center. So they are at the golf course for the fundraiser today, and clearly their call dropped out. We'll wait for them to drop back into the Zoom room.
Brian Laundrie's a piece.
There it probably is right there. Guys, you back?
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You guys are.
Somebody tried to call me, and I hit end, but for some reason hung up the Zoom.
Gotcha. I'll let you, Nikki. I'll let you pick back up where we left off.
Yeah, I think I was just talking about how seeing those letters showed the manipulation she was under, and it was
holy fuck! I mean, I get so emotional with this shit, man. I really am.
She felt so defeated. I think that she was never going to be good enough.
I think this is really one of the reasons why we fight so hard, to make sure people know that they're not alone and that there are resources out there.
I'm sorry.
It just makes us want to work harder for her, because I guess she felt so alone and wasn't able to come to us about any of this. I don't think she reached out to anybody about any of this, so it just makes us want to work harder.
Tara, were you able, and Nicole, you as well, I mean, were you guys able to read the letter? I mean, is that a difficult thing for you guys to do, given where you are now in your lives and what you're trying to pursue with the foundation?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do good. We're trying to move forward and help people, and it just seems like things keep coming at us unexpectedly. It's difficult to get through that. It's like a gut punch every time something new comes out.
Yeah, it's re-triggering. Every time something comes out, we get re-triggered, and it's just more pain that we have to work through, and keep fighting. But it does make us want to work harder. It does make us want to fight harder.
I know that you, through our conversations, over the course of Gabby's disappearance and then the subsequent investigation into her murder. You were very close-knit with the FBI. The FBI, you guys were almost on speed dial, as I understand it, being able to access, federal investigators, special agents that were working on this case. As I'm reading through this document last night, I find that one of the special agents who wrote up a report on the discovery of Gabby's remains in Wyoming found that there was a loaded revolver speed loader found near her remains, in addition to 2 arrows. And if I'm correct, this is information that you two, and really, and Joe and Jim also, you guys had no idea about this. What do you make of the fact that the speed loader and the arrows were found near her remains?
I mean, I had no idea.
I'm just finding about this right now. I didn't know that. I wasn't able to open up the report. I kind of skimmed through it on Nikki's computer, but I don't remember seeing that part. So.
Somebody sent that to me. I think maybe Mike Ruiz. Somebody sent that to me, that information. We're just so busy trying to plan this fundraiser, but yeah, I had no idea, and I actually wanted to confirm that because I was like, is that really true? That really happened? But it's in the report, so it just blows my mind.
We don't understand why we didn't have access to that report first, to read through it before it made headlines.
Yeah, we did our FOIA request way back, so I don't know. We didn't get any information.
You guys had a FOIA request. I had a FOIA request. A lot of people had FOIA requests. I know your attorney, Pat, here in Florida, he was waiting patiently on FOIA results as well, just trying to understand. Look, there was a gargantuan amount of money that went into the investigation to both find Gabby and then bring justice for Gabby as well, and locate Brian. And of course, Brian was found, his remains were found in October. Another part of the document, I just want to get through some of the highlights of the document before we, look ahead and focus on your efforts today in New York. But it's interesting to me that the FBI never found the mattress. Based on this report that we have, and I want to explain for people, Gabby and Brian left New York, of course. They go on their cross-country road trip, and they are living in this camper. They have as we understand it, there's a mattress, correct you guys, in the camper, but the FBI never actually found the mattress. At some point, the mattress was disposed of, and according to this document, it doesn't appear that it was ever recovered. What did you make of that nugget?
That was information that we did know, and it was just never recovered. Nobody knows where the mattress is. So.
As far as there being, I want to just make sure I get through my notes. There was another portion of the report where somebody who, gave a tip to the FBI said that at one point Gabby and Brian were on the trip, and it's okay.
Do you hear Joe Petito? Do you hear Joe Petito?
I know.
Joe Petito's coming.
I know that voice. Joe Petito making a cameo appearance.
We're talking about some serious stuff, and he just comes barreling in.
Oh, sorry. What are you talking about serious? I'm gonna go.
He's actually going to play golf.
I'm gonna go play golf. Love you.
It's
Love these live streams.
Yeah, he got to play golf this morning, and now he's playing golf again. So
I am.
Yeah. This is why
He's
live
living
stream
it
is
up.
better than TV, folks. You just never know what is going to happen on a live stream. So, and I'm curious too. I don't know if Joe's hanging out around, because Joe and I were texting a little bit last night. There's a point in the documents where there's so many tips. There were so many people, Nikki and Tara, that came forward with information to the FBI and said, I saw Gabby and Brian here, or I interacted with them there, and a lot of tips that came into the FBI where they recognized Gabby because of the Let It Be tattoo on her arm. That was a major identifying characteristic. And at one point, somebody put in a tip that said that Gabby and Brian were traveling with what appears to be 2 other men. I don't know if that rang a bell, as far as if you knew if Gabby and Brian had made friends along the way as they headed out west.
I don't think so. I think a lot of that was unconfirmed sightings. There's, believe it or not, a lot of couples that look very similar to Brian and Gabby. A lot of people have small transit vans that travel. So a lot of coincidences, or sometimes it's people that just want to join in and say they saw them so they could be part of it in some way. But I think it's just people that maybe mistakenly thought it was them. Some of them could be true. I don't think they were traveling with anybody at any point. That's as far as I know. But
yeah, I don't believe they were traveling with anybody. Again, I agree with Nikki. I think some of them, they just thought they might have saw them. They saw them. They just wanted to join in, give any help that they could, and I don't really believe that she was with anybody. They were with anybody else.
So as far as now the FBI document, it's somebody just pointed out in the chat. I'm keeping my eyes on the chat, you guys. I know a lot of people are very excited to see you both, Nikki and Tara, by the way, and clearly on a beautiful day on Long Island in New York, on a very special day for the Gabby Petito Foundation. But a lot of people noting that that the document is titled 01, and that could be something or nothing. Is there the expectation that maybe the FBI releases even more evidence in this case? Because I mean, nothing. I mean, there's very little that's going to change the outcome of where we are with this story, right? I mean, even though we might get some more information, the FBI has been in possession of this material for several years. People who scream for justice for Gabby and point to Chris and Roberta Laundrie. But I mean, the idea that more documents that could come out, that Gabby's name could be in the news even more in the months and years ahead, where are you at with the fact that the investigation is over and the fact that yet still more stuff continues to surface?
It's weird. But it's not surprising. I mean, at this point, I mean, anything can happen. We could definitely get more information, or we might not. We really don't know. We don't know what the FBI has, and we don't know what they will share. Right.
We have a question coming in from the chat, you guys. If you guys would like to take a question, I'm not going to throw any curveballs your way. If you'd like, of course. Is that okay by you, Tara, Nicole?
Sure.
Okay. Natalie sends in this one to the website, heyjb.live. Nicole and Tara, I am so sorry that all of this continues to trigger you. I know that nothing in the world can make the situation better for you. But what does any type of closure look like for you guys? Will there ever be closure? Does the FBI releasing this info make that want for closure better or worse?
So we really don't like that word, closure. There really is never going to be closure. We got Gabby home. We can start the grieving process. Yes, there's still open wounds. I think the open wound will always be there. The scars are always going to be there. We can get triggered at any point in time just by hearing a song, by seeing a sign from her. There's no closure. This is something that we grieve every day. We'll continue to grieve every day until we meet again.
Yeah, we'll never have closure. But we will move forward. I think that we will continue to fight for law changes and things that will help other people and prevent this from happening, because if we don't do that, we feel like we missed our opportunity to help, because Gabby's voice is huge and we speak for her.
We always say she gave us like this huge platform, and we have to use it. So we're fighting for her. We're fighting in her name, and we will continue to do so. Her signs that she sends us make us just want to fight harder.
This is going to be the least surprising part of the live stream for the two of you, but I have to point out that this morning I did reach out to the attorney for Chris Laundrie, Roberta Laundrie, and that being attorney Stephen Bertolino, to just ask a couple of questions and also, of course, I think submit. I've lost count of how many interview requests I put in for Chris and Roberta Laundrie, just again being as fair as possible, giving them the opportunity to tell their version of events, even though the depositions in the civil lawsuit provided so much insight as to their side of the story. Bertolino says that Chris and Roberta still to this day have no interest in speaking. At least I don't know if any other media outlets put in a request. the request by us for an interview was denied. Where are you, Nikki and Tara, with now that the civil lawsuit was settled out of court? I mean, have you guys moved past laundry, the laundry family? Is that something that is no longer present of mind to you?
Yeah, I think, sorry, my daughter keeps trying to call me. Can you tell them? Hold on a second. I think that it was an opportunity for us to kind of cut ties with that stress that was on our backs. Of course, we were disappointed. We wanted to do one thing. We had one goal, get them into the courtroom. But in the depositions, we got our answers, and we were advised by our attorney to just, we're going to end it. We're going to end it here. I look at it as that. I don't look at it as settling. I don't like the word settling because I feel like it makes you feel like you just gave up.
There were reasons why we had to settle, and I guess that's between us and our attorney.
Yeah.
We didn't want to, but I feel like since we have settled, the anger towards them kind of has diminished a little bit.
Well, we don't have to deal with
We don't have to deal with them on almost a daily basis, or there's no more shocking emails that we'll get of something that we're dealing with them. It's more,
it's over. It's almost like it's over with them.
they're forgotten.
Yeah.
We're just gonna forget about them.
Like I said in my impact statement, I can't forgive her, but I won't let her take space in my head. So I will just move on and continue to help people. That's how I will grieve and move forward. Yeah.
So let's look ahead. Because I know that the work that you are doing has been inspiring to so many people that I've had conversations with, most notably recently at CrimeCon. You take the stage in a large hall in front of a lot of people who were there to hear from the four of you, and by the four of you, of course, I mean Nicole, Tara, Jim, and Joe, and you're there at a panel talking about missing Indigenous people in this country and how the missing Indigenous do not get nearly a shred of the amount of media attention that others get in sort of the mainstream media, if you will. That is just one of the many things that the four of you have been doing, and the Gabby Petito Foundation have been focusing on, really, especially now things appear to have ramped up with things being over with the civil trial with the laundries. What is the engine that's driving you? It's clearly Gabby's memory and wanting to do good with the platform that you have, but where are you so focused and what do you want to achieve?
Oh my gosh.
We got so much help when we were trying to search for Gabby. We're just trying to pay that back and pay that forward. Yes, the Indigenous, the Indian country, they have a lot of. It's a hard area. It's a hard place to even start.
It's the jurisdictional issues that they have an issue with, is where things are unsolved and cases are not even.
They're not even taken seriously. I guess Joey saw an interview a couple months back about with this woman, Darlene Gomez, and asked. I guess the person that was doing the interview asked Darlene how did Gabby Petito's story help or hurt the Indigenous women and relatives? And she said she helped. So Joey, of course, bright idea. I'm reaching out to her. I'm getting in contact with her. So that's what he did, and he got her to CrimeCon and got her on stage. Because people, it's more about the awareness, bringing attention to everybody, not just blonde hair, blue eye, beautiful girls. It's just making sure everybody gets the same amount of attention.
And I love what Darlene said, and you probably heard this, JB, at the session, but he said nobody else reached out to her.
Yeah.
All of the tribal leaders
573 tribal leaders and the white man contacted
And
her.
he called her and said, how can we help? What can we do for you? And she was just so taken aback by that we would do that. But that's who we are, and that's what we want to do, because we know that collaborating and working together will help save lives.
It's amazing that Joe is given this credit, but then whenever he's asked, Joe, wow, this is extraordinary, he always looks at you, Tara. Tara, I always feel like he's, all right, what do I say now? He's like, I need to insert a soundbite here, and he's relying on you, Tara, to say something clever.
That's just Joe. That's just his personality. It is all four of us. We all do work together as a team. He's just better at making those phone calls. He's not he's a salesman. That's his speaks out, and he's not afraid to, and he'll phone call whoever. And so normally I tell him, I'm like, oh, you should call this person. You should do this. You should do that. So yeah, I'm behind him 100%, but it's all a team effort. Yeah. And he doesn't want to take any credit for it, and neither do we. It doesn't matter who does what, as long as we do it together and it gets done and lives are saved. Exactly. And Darlene Gomez, she's an amazing individual. She actually was at $2.3 or $2.4 million in pro bono work for the indigenous relatives. And she only started calculating that since 2019, but she's been doing this work for 20 years.
Yeah, I was humbled to be in the room as I heard from Darlene. The panel was fascinating, and I think that we can all, including on this side, guys, in the media, we can all learn. And with Indigenous people, it's so often being on federal lands. There's so many complications there, but there has to be a breakthrough solution, hopefully in the future, to increase awareness for missing Indigenous people, because some of the things that we learned in that panel were just heartbreaking. What are some of the other initiatives? What's the Gabby Petito Foundation? But we'll get into the golf outing here in just a second. But what are some of the other things that you're looking to get accomplished with the platform that you now have as you guys look ahead?
Well, we are working on a training program for first responders. I was a first responder. My husband is and has been for 20-something years. And there's no domestic violence training. There's very little. It's a paragraph in a book, really, for the most part. And some areas are doing a little more, but we want a cohesive program across the nation. People are getting killed on domestic violence calls, firefighters, paramedics, police officers, and if we can get the 911 operators and everybody in between, all the way to the court, the nurses in the hospital, I mean, everybody be trained and on the same page where documentation is so important for court cases that we could help these victims. And then we got the education program.
So we're also working on a prevention program within the elementary, middle school, and high schoolers. So that we're pretty much at the starting process of that. Nikki and I have been trying to research as much as possible to get that part going. So hopefully, again, we're at the beginning stages. We also worked on getting the lethality assessment protocol. We got it here down. Well, I'm not here in Florida now, but down in Florida. We're working on New York. Unfortunately, I don't think it passed. It was yesterday was supposed to pass. It did not pass. So that's going to be our next project also. And then hopefully once we can get New York passed, we're going to work on other states as well.
I have a question coming in from one of our WFLA colleagues here, Allison Henning, who's going to be working on this report for our broadcast tonight on WFLA News Channel 8, your NBC station here in Tampa Bay, Florida. And this question comes from Allison. Almost 3 years later, for so many people to be following Gabby's story so closely, what does it mean to you guys?
Missing 3 live weeks.
Well, we wouldn't be where we are now without all the love and support from everyone, and that's because of Gabby. Obviously, her spirit is so powerful. You know, just seeing her smile and hearing her speak, it's just she connects with so many people. And I hope that we can use her voice and speak for her and just keep doing these good things, because that's what she would have wanted. She wanted the world to be a better place. That's why she said be a nicer person, because there were so many people that aren't nice, and if we could just be nice to each other, maybe the world would change a little more.
I will share with you. You can't see it on your end, but I see the chat, and the chat here is lighting up with support for you guys. I don't even think that the subject matter of the live stream is really the focal point anymore. It's just an insane amount of love, and anybody who wants to throw emojis in the chat just to signal their love here, it's overwhelming when I see comments that are just coming in that are just all just raining positivity. So I want to turn now to the event that you guys have going on behind you, unless that's one of those Zoom backgrounds that you guys have like superimposed behind you. No, is that a real background? Because that doesn't look real. The clouds aren't moving, you guys. Are you sure that you guys are at a golf course right now?
Weird umbrella behind me, but yeah, no, you can be. It's real, promise.
All right, I think you guys passed the Zoom test as far as actually being at work today, so to speak, or being at work, being at the golf course. There are people in the comment section right now just raining butterflies in the comment section, heart emojis, people that want to support the Gabby Petito Foundation. Is there any way for them to support the event today as you guys hit the links, as you guys play golf there on Long Island?
So if you want to help us out, go buy one of the raffle tickets,
Or just donate.
I mean, if you can't make it out to CrimeCon, that's fine. Just donate. Every little bit counts. Every little bit helps to help our mission and fight the cause.
Yeah, and honestly, if you can't donate, we understand. Share the missing persons flyers. Continue to share domestic violence awareness posts. Just keep the conversation going around the issues that we have in this world, not just this country, but this world. And that's very helpful. It really is.
And
if a friend comes to you and they're in a bad situation, don't judge them. Let them come to you, hold their hand, say that you're not alone. I'm here with you. I will help guide you. Know that there are resources out there to help.
And the event today, people that are coming to support you guys, what is that going to look like? I know that you've had the event down in Florida. I know that you were just in CrimeCon in Nashville. Now you're on Long Island. You guys are hitting different parts of the map and doing different things. So what is it going to look like today?
Well, today we're just it's preliminary. We're just looking at the space. We're having the event on Friday. So Duty Ron from YouTube will be live streaming for us. He's going to be here walking around doing a live fundraiser event for us as well. So, if you can't attend, you can attend virtually, which is kind of cool. We're just kind of planning it out right now. We're going to have tons of baskets, and the online raffle, like you said again, it's just an amazing prize worth almost $2,000. You want to go to CrimeCon Denver, $25. You get a chance, and if you win that,
and it all goes to us. Yeah, it all goes to us. So that's the best part. But I mean, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun. We don't want it to be serious. We just want everybody to come. We'll have a DJ. We just want everybody to relax, dance, buy some raffle tickets.
In the spirit of Gabby, we're going to have a great time.
I think Duty Ron's in the chat right now, so yeah, he is. He's saying
Ron.
Hello, and I know Ron well enough to know that he's looking forward to partnering with you guys. The streaming community is the best. Duty Ron's as good as it gets, and that's really special. That oh, I hit the wrong button. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna get you guys out on this. I'm gonna put you on the spot. And just because you guys are about to hit, the golf course, I know that, look, sports betting has become a big thing in this country. I don't really bet on sports, but I want to know if I had $20 on Joe or Jim to win on Friday, who is taking it? Now I'm putting you guys on the spot. Who is going to actually have the lower score between the two gentlemen?
I don't know. Joey's the lowest score, mean you win?
Yeah, so it's supposed to get back from
Joe.
holiday
I think
and
Joe would
find
win
Off-World
because and Jim
I
would
mean,
probably.
Joe
Volume
goes
10
golfing
in
like
main
more
box.
often, once a week.
Yeah. I would say
We
bet on
just, we
Joe.
just had a lesson, so maybe Joe. And that's
Too
why
much
he
good
went this
music on
morning
that.
and this afternoon. He's
Like
trying to get
30
as much
tracks on
practice
that
in.
comp.
Yeah, and Jim would
Big
agree
up
with that.
Aaron
I don't
Long,
think he would be insulted by that at all. I would
featuring
bet on
this
Joe.
silent
Joe would bet
groove.
on Jim.
This is called Waterworld.
Joe would definitely bet on Jim.
I think I'm gonna give me the underdog. I'm taking Jim in an upset. Jim in an upset. Guys,
Okay.
I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else? This is your opportunity. Anything you want to share? You've got a pretty large audience joining us here in the chat, and just a lot of folks. As we were just talking about the Let It Be tattoos, as we see that come up on screen there, Nikki. Anything else you guys want to share before we let you go?
Just know you're not alone. If you're experiencing any mental health issues, you can dial 988 and talk to someone. Domestic violence, go to hotline.org or domesticshelters.org. There's so much information on there. I know people don't like to make phone calls all the time, so I always put that out rather than the phone number. You guys can put the phone number up on your live stream if you want. And share missing persons posters. I mean, there's a lot you can do out there to help, and then those are some things that, and for yourself, just self-care. We're always pushing self-care. And you can check us out at GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. The website is getting redone, so bear with us. It's just kind of simple right now, but we do have a lot of information on there.
And I always say, take the trip, go on the adventure. We try to do as much as possible to still live life and try to be happy. Gabby had younger siblings, and we have to teach them that they still have a long life and they're allowed to be happy.
Guys, we really appreciate your time and joining us, and all the best with the work that you continue to do, spreading awareness and even getting laws changed around this country. You guys clearly are resolute, and it's an honor, of course, to have you on the live stream today. We appreciate your time, and good luck with the event this weekend.
Thank you.
Just quickly, if you want a Burn After Reading t-shirt, go to our website.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
So, and that goes to the is that going to the foundation, if I understand that correctly?
Of course.
Yep.
Yes. It's on our store.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of merchandise. We have the Burn After Reading. We have the Together We Can.
A lot
of different items. But that all goes to the foundation. And Nikki and I designed it most.
Yeah, we do it.
I know I saw them on stage when you guys spoke at CrimeCon. Guys, I wish you all the very best, and my best to those that I know at the event, and I'm sure that we'll be chatting soon.
Yeah. Thanks, JB. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Nicole and Tara joining us here in the Stream Center, and that's obviously a great event for people that want to get involved with an organization that is committed to doing some incredible good. GabbyPetitoFoundation.org is the destination. The live stream is not over. We still have another half an hour to go. And let me explain why we're only going for once again, when the Zoom room is empty, it's just way too many JVs. That's not a world we want to get you stuck in. Explain really quickly why we're only going to be able to go till about 3 o'clock Eastern. It's this right now going on. This is live from Tampa. We have a lot of rain moving in, and also too. In our early edition of Tracking the Tropics, we were talking about a lot of moisture moving in, and our weather team is going to be streaming live here in the next half hour or so. But before we get to weather coverage on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, let's continue going through this document as promised. Kind of an odd transition now, talking about, of course, the foundation, seeing a smiling Tara, smiling Nicole, but we, of course, are now going to transition back to the actual document itself, and we're going to do it on this screen here by bringing back up the document. Let me point out one more time, as we do a live interview with Nicole and Tara there, that's Gabby's mom and stepmom, we have made repeated requests to the laundries for that side of the story, and I keep the receipts. every single solitary time we've reached out to Chris and Roberta's representation, the interview request is denied. They, of course, have an opportunity in the fairness of what we do on live stream. We were always trying to get both sides of the spectrum, both sides of the picture, and to this point, even now, years later, they have not done a single interview. The only clarity that we have on their position from what happened with the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie story is through the depositions that we went through extensively when the civil lawsuit was still in play. They of course, reached an out-of-court settlement, and that's no longer going to be a case that goes to a civil trial. But the odds are very remote, extremely remote, as remote that it gets, that we ever hear from Chris and Roberta Laundrie, Brian Laundrie's parents. Let's get back now to the document, because the FBI evidence, the FOIA results that came through, unearthed some curious evidence, including here's a crossbow that was taken into evidence by the FBI. Here's some of the writings of Brian Laundrie, and it can be difficult. This is one of the better snapshots to be able to actually read, legible handwriting. There's so many documents that you're going to see here in a moment that the scan didn't hit the PDF right, and you can barely make out what is being scribbled on a piece of paper. But yeah, I'm trying to read here. I'm going to try to just zoom in here a little bit and see if we can make out some of it. But these are the words of Brian Laundrie. I can't really move around all that much, which is really unfortunate, but it's interesting that it's letting me scan text. See, and it's going to be really bad stream content if I am trying to word for word go through all of this. But again, this is a page in the document. Go back to the document itself. And moral compass, or merely the numbers, it's really difficult. But these are the writings of Brian Laundrie, for what it's worth, and the page number here for those of you who would like to read it. Again, I tweeted out the PDF link, and this is on page 129 of the document. All right, let's continue to scroll through. Page 130. A lot of iPhone cases, a lot of various technology bags, more notes, and this one I believe is the note to Brian from Gabby. Let's see if we can zoom in here and just kind of give everybody a quick snapshot of what this looked like. I'll try my very best to read it. Brian, you know how much I love you. Stop crying. And yeah, and we have on WFLA.com, we have a transcription of this. But we're going to kind of move on for the sake of the live stream and the limited time that we have. I want to point out really quickly, because I want there to be time for me to take some questions here at the end, questions that people have. That's part of what we do here with interactive live streaming, is being able to take questions. And so due to, of course, the weather that's heading to Tampa Bay, here's another illustration. It doesn't say who it's by, either by Brian or by Gabby. You heard there Nicole and Tara say that it was, it was hard, and in their words, to read the letter that Gabby wrote to Brian, and in their words, that it was evidence of manipulation that was going on in their relationship, to see Gabby profess love for somebody that would ultimately be the person who confessed to murdering her. So a lot has been made about the letter, and I'm sure that the letter will be, examined quite extensively by people who take closer looks at the interpersonal relationships between between spouses, and how that relates in the world of domestic violence, and in the world of spousal abuse. And in the words of Nicole and Tara, that there was manipulation that was going on there, that Gabby was on the receiving end of, and that makes the letter difficult for them to read. Scrolling through, here's some of the other. There's a luggage tag. Here's a laptop with a lot of stickers on it. Another camera, a pair of shoes, a book, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. These are things that the FBI gathered in the execution of search warrants pertaining to the case. Again, the crossbow that was collected, more writing and more illustrations, a tablet with a keyboard. I don't know if that's a hotspot or a phone. Here are more arrows. Again, arrows being found by Gabby's remains. That, of course, jumped off the page significantly. Nothing will change the fact, by the way, that Gabby died of manual strangulation at the hands of Brian. But she never, of course, suffered any gunshot wounds. But the fact that the loaded revolver speed loader was discovered near her remains, arrows as well, it just puts together like a huge question mark, right? As to why they were there. Here are instructions for use for a firearm. Here's the back of a phone case, a GoPro, a book titled Lullaby. Okay, so here is more of the writings of Brian Laundrie, and I know because I've seen his handwriting enough to know that this is Brian. And I believe that this was the one that was profiled in the New York Post. Continuing onward, a journal or a notebook with Gabby's name on it. More of Brian's writing, more books, shoes. That might be those GoPro covers, difficult to say. And again, we're speeding through this because we only have so much time on the live stream here today. iPhone cases, again, a hat, a Quicksilver drawstring backpack, it would appear to be. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm trying to describe how difficult it can be to make out some of the writing here. Like, see here, some of this writing on the right, it's just unintelligible. Or illegible, I should say, rather. You just can't make it out. But it says Our Van, Arrow, Ford Transit Connect, Steps, Clean It, and then Skylight, and then Sun. I don't know what that word is there. Caring. Again, lights. It's difficult to make out word for word what is being written here. Again, it's 366 pages of documents. This was something that also jumped off the page to me, pun not intended, you guys. This is a hollowed out book. In the book, I can't really see the title, but this is a book that was hollowed out by you can't say by Brian because you don't know exactly who hollowed out the book, but the belief is that whoever, of course, hollowed out this book is trying to put something in this book to conceal it, whether it's a firearm or whatever this would hold. People who hollow out books will put things of obviously high value in a hollowed out book. Cash, credit cards, documents, whatever it may be. More of the, again, snapshots of evidence gathered by the FBI. The book Choke by Chuck Palahniuk, author of Fight Club, said there. A GoPro, more page. It's interesting that some of these books were opened and certain pages were snapshotted. Also interesting that there are certain redactions here. See the white boxes up top and at the bottom? I wonder if there's a reason for those redactions. And that could be connected to... I don't want to speculate. I have a thought as to what that could be, but I just don't want to speculate. This is another page. Good luck getting a transcription of that. I mean, no chance. I can't even definitively say if that's Brian or Gabby's handwriting. Look at that. there's just zero chance that we're ever going to be able to get a transcription of this page unless there's an expert out there with techniques that go far beyond my capabilities. All right, so now we're back to FBI documents pertaining to search warrants that were executed. Scrolling ahead here, here's now a log, the evidence recovery log for everything that we were just reviewing. Here's an administrative worksheet going through some of the protocols, some of the efforts to execute search warrants, description of items that were recovered. Here, now not pictured, or maybe it was pictured, but it was difficult to, of course, visualize. Point here, number 5, hair fiber and a fingernail recovered. Of course, that's going to be important for forensics. Continuing to scroll forward, search warrant affidavit applications. Scrolling ahead here, and more notes taken by special agents. Now, exterior entry, I believe, yeah, this is now going to be a log of photographic evidence. And this is pertaining to the search warrant that was executed on Gabby's van. It even says the Florida tag number up there, and just a log. And this is interesting. This is just a small taste of just how meticulous the FBI and really any law enforcement agency has to be when it comes to how they process evidence. We see all the time about how important it is for prosecutors. If this did ever go to trial, it's not going to go to trial because Brian is deceased and the FBI has closed the investigation into the laundries. There's nothing there. The odds of this ever going to trial are less than 0.0001%. So, but if it ever did previously, if it back in time, if it had gone to trial, all of these logs are extremely important for prosecutors and defense attorneys to, to showcase exactly why their case is strong, or so on and so forth. So these logs are critical, and again, not really great stream content for us to go through line by line. But again, I tweeted out the link if anybody wants to look at this and put it under the microscope a little bit more. Here's it says, zoom in here if you can, and it says on point number 1, the subject vehicle owner Gabrielle Lenora Petito and her boyfriend Brian Laundrie left from New York State sometime in mid-June 2021 for a vacation to Utah, traveling to a variety of national parks along the way. While they were on their trip, they documented some of their events on a YouTube video, Van Life, beginning our van life journey. Again, this is just a massive gathering of some of the evidence that was collected by the FBI, not just physical evidence, but digital evidence as well. But there are some particular pages. I want to get my page number notes here together, stand by, because there are some pages that in this document are of significant consequence. And let's go to where are we? Page 270. We're going to skip ahead here a little bit. There's more evidence logs, more of what was collected, and I want to get to, yes, this. The affidavit in support of an application for a search warrant. This was the probable cause that was introduced for the obtaining of the search warrant that was executed in Northport, Florida at the Laundrie's home, I believe in the 3rd week of September, when FBI agents went in and came out with boxes and bags of evidence. For those who were on live stream with me years ago and remember the day that the FBI was coming out with a lot of stuff, this is the search warrant that was executed, and this was the probable cause to receive clearance from a judge for that search warrant to be executed. And so the special agent here isn't identified by name, but the special agent puts together an application, an affidavit for the search warrant to be approved. And we're going to go through some of the points here that are of particular importance. I'm going to kind of move in here a little bit. And what's interesting is I want to highlight the date of this doc. Where's this?
I'll pause that. I got something special for you guys. Here we go.
Welcome back to We the People University. My name is Abaya Israel, former police officer and former sheriff's deputy. Today, we're going to take a look at the Fort Lupton Police Department located in the state of Colorado.
Yep, it is. You heard right. The Fort Lupton Police Department that let Yarny Rios Gonzalez cop and back to a squad car and get hit by a train. What happened? Well, she won the lawsuit, $8.5 million, and she deserves every motherfucking penny of that shit. You bet she did, because she got brain damage. That lady was such a beautiful woman, and the cop got called because they said she was shooting at people at road rage. Well, that was unfalse. That was untrue. They just fucked with her. And it's so funny, but here, let's find out how more about this.
Also, the Platteville Police Department located in the state of Colorado. This is going to be one of the most mind-blowing videos I've ever seen, and I'm really nervous about seeing that because as of late, every time I state this is the dumbest video I've ever covered, there's another video that comes across my attention that blows the last video out of the water. This video initially took place in September of 2022, and a lawsuit agreement was reached on June 5th, 2024. It's concerning a woman who was handcuffed and left in the back of the police vehicle to be hit by a train. We're going to get into the details of that. Trust me, you do want to watch all the way to the end, to the very last second, and get all of the details that went on in this case. But before we say any more, make sure you guys support the channel, hit the like button, and subscribe if you have not done so already. But let's check out this video.
The fact that they're stupid. Those police officers parked their cruiser on a train track is a no-no.
Status medical emergent. The suspect was in the vehicle that was hit by the train.
Get your hands up. Turn around.
What's going on?
Alleged.
We're taking you to the car.
Alleged.
Why?
And let me tell you something, too. I know somebody who was so outraged about this. Because you know why?
Who is that hard?
Garny is cousin with the person I know that lives in Tampa Bay. She was in the hospital for months. Because they're fucking stupid idiots. They don't give a fuck about you. I want to tell people, police officers don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck if you live or die. They don't give a shit if the sword here, take you to jail, or you go home. What is the number one thing that police officers care about? Police officer safety, and they can go home. Bam!
So after watching this, there are several questions that can be asked. Why did you guys leave the vehicle on the track?
Train track, yeah.
Even if you're conducting a felony stop, and that's where you come out with guns drawn, you have the driver exit the vehicle, walk to you backwards. Even if you're conducting a felony stop, once you've secured the person that you are conducting that stop on, move all vehicles into a safe location.
The second question would be, what makes the other officer, Jordan Stanka, place the at the time suspect into the
Yeah, this
back of
bitch that
Pablo
you picked
Vasquez
it.
as the
Yeah.
sergeant? What makes her place the
Yeah, just sink that
suspect in
bitch
the
in that
back
other one.
of a police
Then they
vehicle
cry and
that's
cry like, "We
parked on
didn't
the
know,
railroad
we
track?
didn't know, we
It
fucked
doesn't
up."
make
Yeah,
any
shut up.
sense. But
You guys
I'll give you an
do.
update in a second
You
why this
didn't
may,
give a
well, not make sense,
second
but answer quite
about
a few of those
that poor
questions. But here's
woman.
a question that I had when I was watching this video for the first time. I thought, as a police officer, as someone who's signing up to serve the community, serve the public, I thought we were supposed to give our lives for the public if that's what it took. We saw in this video every cop on the scene fled. They ran away and they left a
I'm
handcuffed
gonna
woman in
debulge you
the
like
back of
little
a police car to
bitches.
be hit by a train.
A
Whatever happened to
fucking
serving the
train,
community, giving my
locomotive.
life? That was never the
50
case for most
Yeah,
people who
beats
sign
your
up for
mind.
these jobs.
ton train.
Let's read the update.
They wear what?
Colorado authorities have agreed to pay $8.5 million to a woman who was left handcuffed in the back of a parked police vehicle parked on the railroad tracks, which was later hit by a freight train.
The voice from Bolton.
The incident took place on September 16, 2022, near Platteville, Colorado, after Pablo Vasquez, then a Platteville police sergeant, stopped Miss Gonzalez following a reported road rage incident. Another officer, Jordan Stanka of the Fort Lupton Police Department, took Miss Gonzalez into custody, handcuffed her, then locked her in the back of the police vehicle, which belongs to Sergeant Vasquez, which was parked on the railroad track. Brilliant. Fort Lupton Police Officer Jordan Stanka was charged with 2 felonies, including criminal attempt to commit manslaughter and second-degree assault, according to a press release from the Weld County District Attorney's Office. And Platteville Police Sergeant Pablo Vasquez, who parked the car on the tracks like a genius, he was charged with several misdemeanors, including 5 counts of reckless endangerment and 1 count of obstructing highway or other passageways, as well as a pair of citations, including careless driving and parking where prohibited. Now, how did this all end? I'll just make it quick and fast. The links will be down below for you to more details if you guys want to read the articles. They were given community service, right? And probation. Sorry, community service and probation. That was the punishment for these officers. But listen to Sergeant Pablo Vasquez. Vasquez was hired despite being labeled. He was hired despite being labeled by his colleagues and a previous job as an incompetent cop with a dangerous lack of radio awareness. And this is according to CBS Colorado.
Yep.
He was labeled by his colleagues and his previous job as an incompetent cop. An incompetent cop with a dangerous lack of radio awareness. Now, before I tell you what the radio awareness is, if you guys don't already know, if he's labeled a incompetent cop, well, that explains it. That explains why he parked on a railroad track.
Yep.
Excuse me. Why he never decided to move the vehicle to a safe location. Why he allowed another officer to place a person in the back of his vehicle that's parked on the railroad tracks, putting her in jeopardy and putting the vehicle itself in jeopardy, putting everyone in jeopardy. Even the train, those things can derail. I'm not a genius on what actually derails trains, but who knows? It could have derailed. A lot of things could have went wrong, all because Sergeant Vasquez, who was deemed to be incompetent by his past job, didn't remove his vehicle from the railroad tracks. All right. Now, it's stated that he had a dangerous lack of radio awareness. What that means is this. As a rookie, I think we all struggle with this. When you first sign up and you're hired on to the department, listening to your radio is a big deal. So you could be conducting a investigation, you could be having conversations, you could be trying to take notes. Whatever you're trying to do, you must still listen to the radio. And it's in the beginning, it's a little bit of a challenge trying to talk and listen at the same time. But by month 3, 4, you pretty much got it down pat. It's easy at that point. But when you're a year, 2 years in, if you've made it to the level of sergeant and you still have a dangerous level lacking radio awareness, That's a problem. That's a real problem. So things can happen. You can be in danger. Your partners can be in danger. A citizen can be in danger, but you're missing the calls over the radio, which messes up everything. So it doesn't surprise me, Sergeant, who made this type of bonehead blunder, it doesn't surprise me to hear that his past department stated that he was incompetent. It makes sense to me. It kind of clears things up, if you ask me. Again, down below, the articles will be penned if you guys want to read further into it. Again, my first time seeing this video, and I also found the update. There was an $8.5 million lawsuit paid out. Oh, before I go, this is the part that you want to hear. The reason that she only received 8.5 million because the total pot was actually 10 million. The reason she only received 8.5 is because 1.5 million was spent on the attorneys who were actually fighting against her. These funds came from an insurance pot, not from taxpayer money. They came from insurance pot, which was 10 million, which she was supposed to receive. But the more they tried to fight their case, the more that the other side, who was defending the police officers in the police department, the more they were able to use that same money to fight against the person who's actually suing. So ultimately what's happening is she's supposed to receive 10 million. The attorneys who were fighting against her are actually using that funds, and they use up the funds to fight against her. And so she's only left with 8.5 million. Yep. Doesn't get any better than that. Yep. Know your rights. Always report police. That being said, we University, signing off.
The whole time I was yelling at him. I said, Robert, stop. What's wrong with you? Stop. And he just didn't stop. He was relentless.
This San Francisco firefighter is talking publicly for the first time about a brutal attack that he says ended his career. Another firefighter charged with beating him with a hydrant wrench.
The I-Team's Dan Noyes first told you about this case 2 years ago, but now the victim has decided to speak about what happened.
And Dan is here to explain why he's talking at this moment in the story you'll see only on 7.
Well, Dan and Kristen, connected to this attack, Gabriel Shin has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit that asks a basic question. Why was the victim forced out of the San Francisco Fire Department while the suspect still works there?
San Francisco firefighter Robert Muhammad had a family crisis in July 2021. We won't discuss details out of respect for his privacy, but his colleagues were concerned about him.
People offered to cook for him. People offered to work his shifts for free. And he rebuffed my offers. But I've never had a conflict with him prior to this.
6 months after that family crisis, firefighter Gabriel Shin tells me, Muhammad called to ask who in the firehouse was talking about his private business.
Robert, I said, I take ownership for speaking about that, because we were concerned for you, but I'm not going to tell you who told me. And he said the next time he sees me, he's going to hurt me.
He said that?
Yeah, well, I mean, he used a pejorative, but yes.
Well, I'd like to know what he said.
The next time I see you, I'm going to you up. That's exactly what he said.
Court records show that 2 days after that phone call, Robert Muhammad used a computer at Station 25 to retrieve Shin's work schedule and his home address, and left the station with what's called a hydrant spanner, a heavy brass wrench measuring 15 inches that's used to turn the water on and off. Muhammad drove across the bridge to Shin's home in Oakland and found him out front sweeping the sidewalk.
I heard somebody say, are you going to tell me who told you? And I turned around, I said, Robert, what are you doing here? He said, who are you protecting? I said, I forgot. And then he reached into his back pocket, he pulled out the large brass spanner, and he started swinging at my head.
A witness called 911.
911 emergency, what are you reporting?
You have somebody being beat with a wrench on 9th Avenue and East 19th Street.
Court records allege Muhammad swung the wrench at Shin's head approximately 12 times, breaking his arms as he tried to protect himself, giving him a concussion. One blow sent Shin's glasses across the street, he said. The attack stopped only after a neighbor who works against human trafficking pulled a handgun and confronted Muhammad.
And then he slowly dropped the spanner, and looked backwards, and walked away towards his car, which is approximately a block and a half away.
Robert Muhammad has pleaded not guilty to felony assault with a deadly weapon, with several enhancements and one special allegation, great bodily injury. His criminal defense attorney, Jim Bustamante, has declined to be interviewed about this case in the past.
I'm going to cover this in the future. I appreciate your time, huh?
And has not returned my phone calls and emails this week asking for a reaction to the Gabriel Shin interview. In addition to the criminal case, Shin has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city and county of San Francisco, Robert Muhammad, Chief Janine Nicholson, and other members of the San Francisco Fire Department for battery, assault, race and color discrimination, disability discrimination, retaliation, and more. Shin's attorney, James Torres, says Robert Muhammad never faced discipline and never missed a paycheck.
You have an individual that the chief has allowed to continue working all this time, continue drawing taxpayer salary all this time, after attempting to murder a fellow firefighter.
The lawsuit also says several of Shin's direct supervisors ordered him to drop the charges and to not cooperate with the police investigation of the attack.
The first person called me and said, hey, is there any way we can work this out? The second person called me and said, you can't charge him. You know, you've got to drop the charges. That man's got a family. And of course, I was angry. I said, you know, he just tried to kill me.
The lawsuit says they treated Shin with startling prejudice and Muhammad with baffling favor from the outset because they saw one difference. Shin is Asian and Muhammad is black. In their answer, the defendants deny each and every allegation. Still recovering from his injuries and PTSD, Gabriel Shin refused a fire department interrogation, which he believed would be not about the attack, but focused on who was talking about Robert Muhammad's family crisis.
Within days of that, Chief Nicholson and those deputies took away his pay. They took away his health insurance before he could even recover from those injuries.
No response from Chief Nicholson, and City Attorney David Chu's office emailed me that we will continue to respond to the complaint in court. The city attorney has arranged outside counsel for all those defendants. One other item from the federal court file.
San Francisco Police.
Hey, I've got a guy following me. I just showed him some legal documents. I'm on Treasure Island. One of you guys can help me out with it.
Last year, a process server went to the fire department training center where Robert Muhammad now works. After he handed the firefighter a summons, Brendan Kleiman tells me he got into a high-speed chase with Muhammad, so he called 911.
And it was raining super hard. There's construction on the island. It's like really sketchy.
Subject now agitated. And he's following you in his vehicle?
Yeah, we're going like 75 miles an hour, weaving in and out of other cars. We're not the only ones on the road. And he's coming up and he's swerving, trying to hit me. I'm speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, just trying to get around the cars.
Muhammad finally backed off. Gabriel Shin's lawyer tells me they informed the city attorney and filed a declaration about what happened into the case file.
If you look at the situation objectively, there's no way that he should still be working. If he were a police officer, I don't think he'd still be working and drawing a salary. And I don't understand why that's happening, but that is happening.
Gabriel Shin now spends most of his time outside the state. He tells me there's just too much to trigger his PTSD when he stays at his house in Oakland. I'll continue to both watch both cases and report what happens in them. So a lot going on.
Yeah,
More to come.
what a story.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Tonight on Frontline.
Everybody's a suspect. And if you're good, we won't bother you. And if you look a little strange, then you might get on a watch list.
A permanent war against a hidden enemy.
The president turned to me and said, never let this happen again.
A new strategy of prevention.
You have to cast the net a bit more broadly.
And new perils to privacy.
It is inevitable that totally innocent Americans are going to be affected by these programs.
Correspondent Hedrick Smith looks into the government's secret surveillance efforts here at home.
We're talking about a wholesale diversion of communications to government control.
Oh, that's what they're doing. This is a spy apparatus.
And explores the new era of prevention, hunting them by watching us.
It seems to be like the beginning of we're going to treat everyone like a bad guy. And that applies to everything. Telephone records, financial records.
How much security do you want? How many rights do you want to give up? Tonight on Frontline, spying on the home front.
Las Vegas. It was the week before New Year's 2004, and Steven Sprouse and Kristen Douglas flew in from Kansas City to get married.
Steven always wanted to get married in Vegas. That's part of the joke.
Steven and Kristen exchanged vows in front of friends, family,
Ladies and gentlemen, it is showtime.
and Elvis.
You come in and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to get married. And then, Elvis comes down the aisle. You're kind of up there, and all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, I'm really getting married. And they're doing the vows, and you're like, oh, this is for real. And
then you're singing Viva Las Vegas.
And then you're singing Viva Las Vegas.
But in fact, things in Vegas weren't looking so good. There was disturbing news.
Tom Ridge was on national TV, and he said, "Hey, there's 3 cities that we got to really pay attention to: Washington D.C., New York, and Las Vegas." And when that happens, then the whole eyes of the world come on you.
U.S. intelligence from overseas has prompted an elevated alert.
On Saturday, December 20th, I was contacted by someone from our terrorism division at FBI headquarters. The information that I received was that Al-Qaeda could have an interest in Las Vegas, possibly over the New Year's weekend.
That's it.
Just a
That's it.
ridiculous
No
joke.
names, no targets.
No targets identified, no
It's right up there, isn't
threat articulated, no plot
It's the flip.
uncovered.
it? So the soul structure of joysticks.
New Year's Eve
Next
is a
release.
security nightmare for the
It's
cops.
called The Rebirth.
You see it as a tempting target for terrorists.
We have 300,000 to 400,000 people on the streets, on Las Vegas Boulevard, in front of all these beautiful hotels, waiting for the clock to strike midnight and all the fireworks to go off. And that was what the intelligence information indicated, that was, the type of area or venue that they were going to try to target. Here was the real dilemma. Do we cancel our New Year's Eve celebration in Las Vegas? That was the question being placed on me.
When you're out there, that's when you kind of notice that you don't see any of the planes flying, and you see helicopters off in the distance kind of circling around. That's when it kind of seemed a little weird, seemed a little odd.
Yeah. It was a little creepy.
Yeah.
The clock was ticking. Just 11 days till New Year's. They needed to act fast.
We spoke almost an hourly basis at times with our own headquarters, with the Department of Justice, to try to determine if there were terrorist operatives in Las Vegas or preparing to come to Las Vegas.
Who's in Las Vegas? Can we find out who's in Las Vegas today and who's going to be here over the New Year's Eve weekend? Is there the potential that a Muhammad Atta is staying at the Economy Lodge again?
The feds called in security chiefs of the major hotels and casinos and asked for help, but much different help from usual.
When Ellen Knowlton, the FBI agent in charge in Las Vegas at the time in December 2003, came to all the casinos and said, "We want all your records."
How does that hit?
To my knowledge, no one has ever made a request that is as broad as "we want all of your records." No one had prior to that.
The hotel records, the airline records, the rental car records, the gift shop records, the casino records. When you're talking about all those records, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. particularly during this 2-week period.
That's correct.
Hotel casino executives resisted, said they did not want to turn over the information. There was, according to published reports, a lot of arm twisting, a lot of intimidation.
It was an extraordinary step. It really was. We were asking for records for the single purpose of making comparisons. We were not asking for records that would become incorporated into the FBI files.
But records for everybody who was here.
As many as we could obtain. Yes.
So you're talking hundreds of thousands of people.
It was very, very, very voluminous, yes.
As a citizen, I was very troubled by it. As an executive with this company, I was very troubled by it. You know, prior to this, we had dealt with the notion of here's a list of people whom we suspect are doing bad things or have the potential to do bad things. To simply say, you know, it's a matter of national security, we need to know the name of every single person checking into your hotel at any given moment. That seems extremely unusual and I think extremely troubling.
Did you feel like you were doing something unprecedented?
In a way, yeah. In a way, I did. But we were doing so in order to safeguard this community. If someone was not a terrorist or a terrorist associate, they were not of any interest to us whatsoever.
Trust us, we're the government, and if you're not up to no good, why should you care? That's not the way our system works. We are a country that is founded on a set of principles relating to individual freedom, including our privacy, our right to be left alone by the government.
9/11 indelibly altered America in ways that are now being seriously questioned.
Deliberate and deadly attacks, which were carried out yesterday against our country, were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war.
A new paradigm of war spawned a new strategy, a proactive strategy of preemption.
When the president turned to me within hours, really after 9/11, a day or so, and said, in my direction anyhow, never let this happen again. Now, not letting something happen is different than proving something happened. The old business of the Justice Department to be able to prosecute the criminal and declare victory is not good enough when you lose 3,000 people and the criminals purposefully extinguish themselves in the perpetration of the crime. Prevention means disrupting a scenario before it actually all comes together.
The new paradigm of prevention carried a new peril. Innocent people will get caught in the dragnet.
When you talk about prevention, you're saying to people, well, you can't just focus on one person. You have to cast the net a bit more broadly. And you have to start to work with situations where you're going to collect a lot of data and then try to connect the dots. But that means you're going to collect a lot of data, and that means you're going to end up holding a lot of data about ordinary people who have nothing to do with your threat.
That sounds pretty intrusive.
It is.
Tonight, Big Brother, the uproar over a secret presidential order giving the government unprecedented powers to spy on America.
Surveillance inside the U.S. without court orders.
It was a bombshell. The National Security Agency engaged in warrantless eavesdropping inside the United States. The New York Times story broke on December 16, 2005. But spying on the home front had begun in the shadow of 9/11. And there was more going on than the Times story revealed. Congress erupted in protest.
Mr. President, it is time to have some checks and balances in this country. We are a democracy.
It's inexcusable to have spying on people in the United States without court surveillance in violation of our law, beyond any question.
This was enormous news. When the New York Times told us about the NSA wiretap program, for people like me, it was as though there was this alternate universe. We had thought we had a legal system and we knew what the moves were, and it turns out that the NSA was doing something entirely outside of it.
In the Cold War, NSA's mission was to collect communications intelligence on enemies abroad. Except in very rare cases, its cardinal rule was hands-off Americans at home.
NSA was looked at more as the nuclear weapon for eavesdropping. Much too powerful to use domestically. It was never set up to use domestically.
It was almost something that was put into your bloodline from the very beginning. In essence, you were taught that it was not part of the NSA mission, except under very exceptional and legally approved circumstances, to be involved with U.S. communications.
But with one sweeping secret order, President Bush had changed all that.
As President and Commander-in-Chief, I have the constitutional responsibility and the constitutional authority to protect our country. So consistent with U.S. law and the Constitution, I authorize the interception of international communications of people with known links to Al-Qaeda.
The president minimized the risk to Americans. His eavesdropping program, he said, was very narrowly targeted, with one party outside the U.S. and known to be a member of or connected to Al-Qaeda.
I just want to assure the American people that, one, I've got the authority to do this. Two, it is a necessary part of my job to protect you. And three, regarding your civil liberties. And regarding the civil liberties.
But once before, the NSA was accused of invading American civil liberties during the scandals of the Watergate era in the 1970s.
The Select Committee made its first inquiries into this operation last May.
The Church Committee, headed by Senator Frank Church of Idaho, exposed widespread abuses of power at the FBI and the CIA, and revealed that the NSA had been spying on Americans for decades.
What was Operation Shamrock?
Operation Shamrock was a program of the National Security Agency to obtain access to telegrams that were leaving the United States for other countries, for foreign countries. And the idea was that the NSA would look through these telegrams, look for telegrams of interest from a foreign intelligence standpoint.
Are you saying all the telegrams going out of the U.S.? How did they get access?
They asked. I mean, that sounds very simplistic, but they approached the communications carriers, the telegraph companies concerned,
RCA, ITT,
and Western Union.
So in Operation Shamrock, what we saw was the NSA turning its foreign intelligence operations internally on American communications.
Exactly, yeah. Operation Shamrock was getting access to all the communications going through the United States.
There were very few rules back then, very few laws, regulations that dealt with what NSA or any intelligence agency could collect back then. The capabilities were there, the restraints weren't there. The temptation is to do it.
The committee believes that serious legal and constitutional questions are raised by this program.
The exercise of unchecked executive power rankled Congress.
The program certainly appears to violate Section 605 of the Communications Act of 1934, as well as the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution.
So Congress passed the FISA law, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and set up a super-secret court here on the 6th floor of the Justice Department to prevent abuses of civil liberties. FISA said no intelligence wiretaps inside the U.S. without a warrant, and the FISA court was designated as the exclusive authority for getting warrants.
Why is the FISA court, the judge, or the Congress so important to this process?
Because the cop is a zealous person. You want your cop, you want your intelligence agent to go full bore, to be really devoted to what they're doing. And then you want somebody to say, wait a second, we don't want Dirty Harry, we have to have some ways to rein that in. And so you want the energy of the executive, and you want the checks and balances on that. So we get energy and we get rule of law. And that was our American invention. That's the whole checks and balances, Madison, Federalist Papers. It's those inventions that can get put at risk if it's just saying, Commander-in-Chief, stop there, don't question it.
Hence the furor when President Bush went around the FISA court.
Why did you skip the basic safeguard of asking courts for permission for these intercepts?
You're referring to the FISA court in your question. Of course, we use FISAs. But Pfizer's is for long-term monitoring. What is needed in order to protect the American people is the ability to move quickly to detect.
The law said the exclusive authority for wiretaps were these other statutes. And the president looked at exclusive authority and said, except when I feel like it.
Uphold the laws.
It was as though the lessons of Watergate had been forgotten. It was as though the lessons of centralized executive power and the problems that come with that had been forgotten. And now the president just said, I think I can do it my way.
So you're saying the president violated the law?
My view is that the president violated the law, yeah.
What do you say to people who say the president violated the FISA law?
I think that there is a law greater than FISA, which is the Constitution. And part of the Constitution is the president's commander-in-chief power. Congress can't take away the president's powers in running war that are given to him by the Constitution. There's some decisions the Constitution gives to the president, and even if Congress passes a law, they can't seize that from him.
But there was another reason the president went around FISA. The NSA needed to tap into communications more broadly than the president had indicated.
The difficulty in this war is that the enemy is not a nation. So what they do is they disguise themselves as civilians, and they place their communications through normal civilian channels. So the hard thing for our side is to identify where in that stream of civilian, innocent communications, Al-Qaeda members are disguising their messages to one another. They're trying to intercept those and find out what they need.
Fishing for possible targets among streams of civilian communications takes a lot of guessing.
If you're trying to prevent future terrorist attacks, trying to make guesses, trying to use probabilities, you may not have a lot of information that say, yes, this person for sure is a member of Al-Qaeda.
But there's a legal problem. Guessing is not allowed under FISA.
The second difficulty is that it doesn't allow you, for example, to tap streams of human communication that might be coming, say, from Afghanistan to the United States, to try to search through those for terrorist communications, even though you don't have the specific name of the terrorist leader.
Now, could you do that kind of blanket eavesdropping, listening to those calls under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act?
No, I think this is a good example of where existing laws were not up to the job.
In the intelligence game, blanket eavesdropping is called a driftnet, an electronic driftnet. But former NSA Director General Michael Hayden said no, that's not what was going on in the president's eavesdropping program.
This is a driftnet out there where we're soaking up everyone's communications. We are going after very specific communications that...
Now you have General Hayden, the former head of the NSA, and the Attorney General, saying this is not a driftnet. We're not doing data mining in this program.
What they've said repeatedly is that we're not doing the driftnet in this program. But it might be program number 2 or program number 3.
Is this program being what, the president's program?
Because they were talking about the president's program. And then the other things we're worried about tend to be happening in these other programs they haven't admitted to.
Is there any stop you from wiretapping without a warrant somebody inside the United States that you suspect of having Al-Qaeda connections?
Clearly, Senator, that is not what's going on here, first of all. The president has authorized a much more narrow program.
So you're suggesting their denials are a word game, not a true denial?
Yep.
Have you looked at it closely?
I looked at the Attorney General's testimony very carefully, and every time he gave the big denials, they were attached to the words "this program."
Al-Qaeda to Al-Qaeda within the country, you're saying we do not get involved in those calls. Now,
not under the program in which I'm testifying, that's right.
You're saying Al-Qaeda to Al-Qaeda within the country is beyond the bounds?
So it is beyond the bound of the program which I'm testifying about today.
Has the president ever invoked this authority with respect to any activity other than NSA surveillance?
Again, so I'm not sure how to answer that question. And the president has exercised his authority to authorize this very targeted surveillance, international communication of the enemy. So, I'm sorry, your question is?
Has the president ever invoked this authority with respect to any activity other than the program we're discussing, the NSA surveillance?
Senator, I am not comfortable going down the road of saying yes or no as to what the president has or has not authorized.
He's a former judge. He's a smart lawyer. The attorney general is speaking very carefully. But I think there could be lots of room after you read his testimony for other programs to be doing really unprecedented things.
What other things might the NSA be doing? To answer that, you have to understand what the NSA actually does and how it works.
The average person doesn't have a concept of the massive capability that is available to the National Security Agency. Forget about the idea of the guy with earphones on listening to something. That's not what happens. You know, the calls are being sucked up by the millions, and not just the calls, you're engaged in this data mining.
It's essentially looking for certain kinds of signals in an almost Herculean task, a much, much larger communications environment, to find the things that actually have intelligence value.
Data mining, sifting through oceans of phone calls and internet traffic. That's a far cry from what President Bush described. Targeted intercepts of point-to-point allocated communications.
Another feature of data mining is that you don't have any individualized suspicion going in. They don't say, hey, we're looking for something that Hedrick Smith is doing. They are just collecting the data, and then the analysis of the data gives rise to suspicion of individuals based on these connections.
The inside story of what the NSA has actually been up to was discovered here in San Francisco by Mark Klein, a longtime internet technician for AT&T.
In 2002, I was sitting at my workstation one day, and some email came in saying that somebody from the National Security Agency, NSA, was going to come visit for some business. This NSA representative showed up at the door. I happened to be the one who opened the door. I let him in.
He was doing a background check for a security clearance for one of our field engineers. He was going to be working at the Folsom Street office, and they were building a secure facility there.
And I heard from our manager, Don, that he's working on some new room that's being built. So people start speculating, well, what's this new room being built?
Mark Klein got suspicious when the workmen constructing the room treated it as hush-hush. So how do you know that it wasn't just some kind of newfangled AT&T thing that was going beyond what had already been established for its security purposes elsewhere?
They wouldn't need the NSA for that purpose. The odd thing about the whole room, of course, was that only this one guy who had clearance from the NSA could get in there. So that changes the whole context of what this is about.
Klein's job was to maintain AT&T's internet service for several million customers, domestic and international traffic all mixed together.
We're talking about billions and billions of bits of data going across every second, right?
A coworker showed Klein how their internet room was directly connected to the secret NSA room through a special device called a splitter.
So what they do with a splitter is they intercept that data stream and make copies of all the data, and those copies go down on the cable to the secret room.
What this thing was is a very full-scale device to take all communication, voice and data, and send it both wherever it was supposed to go, but also shunt it off to a little listening room.
So what exactly was going on in that listening room? Klein found clues at work one day.
I came across these 3 documents, and I brought them back to my desk. And when I started looking at it, I looked at it more, and finally it dawned on me sort of all at once, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Klein eventually found detailed designs for the secret room. One of the first to see his documents was internet expert Brian Reed.
Lord, they had a lot of hardware, and they could, with the computers that they had there, they could do anything they wanted with that data. There was serious compute power available to process that wiretap data.
But then there was one thing that was odd, because I didn't recognize it. It was not part of normal day-to-day telecommunications equipment that I was familiar with, and that was a NARUS, N-A-R-U-S. NARUS STA 6400.
The NARIS STA 6400 made me sit up and take notice and realize that this was not an amateur game. And so when you see a NARIS box and all that storage space and all that compute power, you can't help but think, wow, this is some heavy duty processing power here to really analyze the data that is siphoned off. What is going on?
The term NARIS is Latin for to know. The way our software works is it monitors all of the traffic on the internet, all of the ones and zeros that make up all of the data that that you and I generate when we're looking at web pages or when corporations are sending emails back and forth. All of that information, we just sort of peer into the pipes, if you will, and look at the ones and zeros as they go by.
Peering into the pipes. What does that mean?
Sort of analogous to a letter inside of an envelope. So you've got different layers in these things we call packets. And, the first layer that you get to peer back is the information about where the packet's coming from and where it's going to, the addresses that identify, who's communicating with who. And then once you delve into deeper parts of the packets, that's when you get into what's called the payload. And that includes the actual information that you're trying to send in the packet.
The content.
The content of the packet, that's correct.
So your customers would be communications providers like AT&T or the Bell system. Do you also sell to government agencies like the National Security Agency or the FBI?
I can't comment on any particular agencies that we may or may not have sold to because they haven't given us permission to announce their names.
Why would AT&T put a NARIS STA system in a room in its San Francisco office to which the NSA has access?
That's not a question. So, as far as I know, no one's ever proved anything. I don't know the answer to that question. I have no idea if that's ever been done or not.
You've seen the splitter. You've now got the documents. You've seen the NARIS. What is it you think is going on here?
When I saw all that, it all clicked together to me. Oh, that's what they're doing. This is a spy apparatus.
Klein decided to blow the whistle. He went to see the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Cindy Cohn is their senior attorney.
Mark Klein brought us some very good specific information about a specific facility in San Francisco that confirmed a lot of things that we thought were going on. We found a few other experts who know about the telecommunications companies and the issues that Mr. Klein was talking about, and we ran what Mr. Klein had given us past them, and we said, does this fly? Does this hold water to you? And we were told, yes, it does.
Scott Marcus, a former Federal Communications Commission expert, estimated that they set up eavesdropping rooms at 15 to 20 sites across the U.S., intercepting about 10% of all purely domestic internet traffic. And that's just at AT&T.
We're not talking about just targeted person-to-person communications being handed over to the government. We're talking about something much bigger. We're talking about a wholesale diversion of communications to government control.
In early 2006, the Electronic Frontier Foundation filed suit against AT&T, asking the court to stop AT&T from handing over customer communications to the government.
Our case alleges that AT&T is wholesalely providing the communication records and ongoing live information to the government. That's a violation of law.
In court, AT&T urged dismissal of the case, citing state secrecy. Both AT&T and NSA refused to talk to Frontline about the case. You're aware that there's a case out here in San Francisco where people are saying that AT&T violated the law by giving the National Security Agency access to all its phone and internet traffic. As a lawyer, is it your opinion that that actually would violate the law?
No, I don't think so if it was part of the President's Commander Chief power to gather information on the signals intelligence of man.
Can the government pull out the communications it wants, or does it have to have access to the entire flow?
I think the government needs to have at least access to the flow. Even if it was going to enforce a warrant, it has to have access to the flow.
Under pressure from lawsuits like the AT&T case and from Congress, President Bush made a dramatic reversal last January. He put the one NSA eavesdropping program that he has acknowledged under the FISA court, but he still claims he has the power to go outside FISA anytime he wants. And the government isn't saying whether the eavesdropping at AT&T in San Francisco is covered by FISA. As far as we know, the Naris box that Mark Klein told us about is still peering into the internet traffic. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But the marketing pitch, like the city itself, is a paradox. While legions of fun seekers flock to Vegas every day to get lost in the crowd, the reality is that privacy has become an illusion. I see the sign on your cab getting in, video and audio recording going on.
Well, what we have here is, first, the minute the doors are open, digital still pictures are taken, okay, which are saved. Then the video and audio is running at the same time. And in the event that there is a problem, then the video camera will now download the 20 seconds previous to the event and what's going on during the event.
It's quite a place, Las Vegas. I mean, there's obviously in the airport lots of video, and obviously at the hotels and casinos, they're loaded with cameras and now taxis.
Well,
so we're in film practically the moment we arrive.
Correct.
People that come to Vegas, the only time they're not on video is when they're in their room or they're in a public restroom. They don't have them in those. But the hallways, the elevators, the gaming area, we've taken that to a level that has, I think, surpassed any place in the United States.
Las Vegas as surveillance city struck me as an apt metaphor for life in the digital age. Businesses gather information on us routinely. Every day we leave digital trails that reveal where we go, what we do, who we are. After 9/11, government agencies moved aggressively to tap into all that information compiled in commercial data banks. That's what the FBI was doing when it asked for records on 250,000 tourists in Las Vegas. So you're looking at airlines, car rental agencies, hotels, casinos, timeshare apartments, storage places, the works.
As much as we could get in the few days that we had to work with. Yeah.
Were legal papers produced of some kind?
There were official requests for the information. It was not off the record or in any way inappropriate.
What you wanted was an assurance that this was a legal request backed by the power of law, not just a voluntary compliance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And why?
The concept that someone would want all records with no names identified over a period of time, in this case it would give or take a couple of weeks, is in our industry an extraordinary request.
The Patriot Act includes provisions that permitted the government and the FBI to do exactly what it did, with very little or no judicial oversight whatsoever. It gave the FBI broad, sweeping power and authority to engage in precisely this kind of massive fishing expedition.
What the Patriot Act had done was vastly expand the reach of national security letters, which are FBI administrative subpoenas not approved by any court.
One big change that most people haven't quite seen is that before the Patriot Act, you could get a national security letter, one of these special without a judge, get the phone records letters, but it would be about one person, just about me. But now the language was changed so the government can get the entire database. And there's just a little change in the language. NSLs, national security letters, get X. But X went from the suspect to being the entire database.
And that applies to everything. Telephone records,
financial records, your credit histories. That applies, and it applies to these other kinds of orders for any kind of record in the American economy.
Did you use national security letters?
I'm not going to be in a position to tell you
what the legal avenues we used were. I can't go there.
Do you know whether or not you got a subpoena, a warrant from a court, or do you know whether or not you got a national security letter from the FBI?
Here's the fun of the Patriot Act. If we were to have received a national security letter, it would be against the law for me to tell you that we did.
And had you received a subpoena with signed off on by a judge, you would be able to.
As a rule, usually we would acknowledge that we received something.
And we're left in blanket silence, which blanket silence in the sense that there are quite a few people who say we can't say. Logical deduction, they must have received national security letters direct from the government.
It would seem to be a logical deduction.
But the big question remains, what did they do with all that information?
It was burned onto CDs here in Las Vegas. And then those CDs were transported to Washington, D.C. for comparison against the various terrorist watch lists.
Back in Washington, the FBI did a batch match, matching the list of 250,000 Vegas visitors against watch lists of tens of thousands of terrorist suspects. They got a few hits. Now, when you said there were a few hits, what does that mean? That
there might be a similar name
on the hotel list and on
one of the watch lists, yes.
But how could the FBI decipher those hits? Were those really terrorists or mistaken identities? And what if the bad guys had disguised their names to get lost in the crowd? How could the FBI ferret them out? Ironically, the answer was right here in Las Vegas. For years, the casinos have been using special computer software to ferret out the hidden links between criminals and prospective employees.
At one point, this young computer wizard named Jeff Jonas approached us and had this idea to use a computer program to compare lots of data, things like addresses, phone numbers, birth dates, social security numbers where things were inverted to make it look different.
Is the idea behind the Jonas software, he calls it NORA, N-O-R-A, to unmask sort of obscured relationships?
No, that's exactly the idea. I mean, the idea was to determine whether or not someone who was applying as a dealer was in fact associated with or connected with someone who was a known thief. So the idea was to protect the company's assets before a crime took place.
Our sources said the FBI used Jonas's software to analyze the data collected in Las Vegas. But would that invade the privacy of ordinary Americans? I'm just wondering, in that 2003 episode, was Jeff Jonas a help? Were you guys able to use it?
I believe he was.
The reason I asked is we were actually told that it was used, that he had,
Well, you got a source there that says it was used. I'm not going to disagree with you or argue with you. Did I use it? I'm not saying. Did my department? We may have. Like I said, there's a lot of privacy concerns, and there's a lot of issues, and there's a lot in the weeds when it comes to private information and how it's used. And I'm simply not in a position today, and maybe never will be, to talk about how we use software to match up tourist information with potential terrorism suspects.
We house 2,400 terabytes of online system storage, enough capacity to contain the entire contents of the U.S. Library of Congress 48 times.
This is a marketing video for Axiom. Since the 1990s, companies like Axiom, LexisNexis, and ChoicePoint have marketed their ability to collect vast amounts of data about all of us, from home mortgages to spending habits, and to create virtual digital dossiers. Watergate-era reforms restricted government use of these private information empires. But after 9/11, the Bush administration lifted the restraints and pushed agencies aggressively to use private databases. This internal FBI document, for example, spread the word. Use ChoicePoint to your heart's content.
When it comes to the Privacy Act, the law didn't change, but there's a change in computers that changed everything. Used to be the fear was the government would have the government database in some big room, an IBM Brainiac computer. And the Privacy Act says we're going to protect against problems there. Today, what
you can't have a big
that you can't have the big Brainiac with the one database on all Americans run by the government. But here's the trick. What you can do if you're the FBI is you can ping the private sector database. hey LexisNexis,
You
you
can
can access
subscribe.
it. Say, hey, give me some information on this person or on that person. And as long as you just access it one at a time, which is the way it works anyways, the Privacy Act doesn't apply. Because it's not a government database. It's the private sector database. The law doesn't apply to the private sector database.
Why should Americans worry about the government having the same kind of information that private companies have, companies like ChoicePoint?
Well, the easy answer is that ChoicePoint can't come and arrest you. They can't come search your house. They can't use that information to sort of put into motion the machinery of the justice system. Once it's in the hands of the government, it has those consequences. That's why the government's looking for the information.
If an American company would have access to this data for purposes of conducting business, I guess I would argue, why wouldn't you want an agency like the FBI in charge of national security to help you protect American lives? And again, it's done, to my knowledge, in accordance with strict guidelines and controls. It's not willy-nilly. There's a structure to the process.
Well, not exactly. FBI Director Robert Mueller was called on the carpet by Congress this spring for myriad abuses by the FBI in using national security letters to secretly collect private records of American citizens. The FBI had issued 150,000 national security letter requests over the past 3 years, and the Justice Department's Inspector General determined that thousands were improperly issued.
I'm deeply disturbed by the Justice Department Inspector General's report finding widespread illegal and improper use of national security letters to obtain Americans' phone and financial records.
Mueller acknowledged the problem and the dangers.
We will correct the deficiencies in our use of national security letters and utilize each of the critical tools Congress has provided us, consistent with the privacy protections and civil liberties that we are sworn to uphold.
But the FBI is hardly alone in mining the mountains of commercial data now available. The Government Accounting Office found 199 data mining projects in more than 50 government agencies. The granddaddy of them all originated inside an elite Defense Department research agency known as DARPA.
The key to fighting terrorism is information. We must be able to detect, classify, identify, and track potential foreign terrorists in a world of noise.
This is a DARPA video for TIA, or Total Information Awareness. The concept was to use predictive data mining to detect suspicious patterns of terrorist operations.
Human identification at a distance will improve the ability to identify foreign terrorists from a distance.
TIA's controversial logo was an all-seeing eye.
If one could imagine that, we have an eye in the sky, and we could truly get all the transactions, all the things that group did to conduct that plot, okay, to conduct that attack. Our thesis is that set of transactions across space, time, and by some number of people will be a unique signature.
TIA's mission, which required access to enormous volumes of personal data, triggered controversy in Congress.
Total Information Awareness Program is over the line, is invading the civil liberties of law-abiding Americans on U.S. soil.
In 2003, Congress cut off funding for TIA, or so it seemed. Is it true that in that black budget, some of the TIA programs were moved over to the National Security Agency?
I can't, it's classified. I mean, all I can say is that there were elements of our agenda at DARPA that the Congress recognized as being valuable, to the point where they said, let's not kill them, let's get them out of DARPA and transition them to another agency within the intelligence community. And I was the guy that did that.
Is it inevitable that we're moving towards a world in which this kind of mass data mining and analysis is just going to happen?
Jack, you still with me?
I mean, I think it is happening.
Thank you.
There's been an explosion of information technology and access to data. I mean, this is what the internet and all this IT revolution has done.
You know, the world is getting digitized. It's ubiquitous information technology. Access to data is far more easy, and a lot of people see tremendous advantage in being able to tap into that.
So we should be having an open discussion about this and then maybe talking about what privacy safeguards are needed in a new world.
Bless you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do we need to do?
Track entitled Basements from the Assembly Code EP.
Are we just going to have to live with this? Is this going to happen inevitably and we just have to live with it?
I think that we do need to say, look, data mining or fusion of information or connecting the dots or whatever you want to call it is clearly going to be a huge feature of our law enforcement national security apparatus. Let's start crafting a set of rules for it.
I always said when I was in my position running counterterrorism operations for the FBI, how much security do you want and how many rights do you want to give up? I can give you more security, but I got to take away some rights. So there's a balance. Personally, I want to live in a country where you have a common sense, fair balance. Because I'm worried about people that are untrained, unsupervised, doing things with good intentions, but in the end of the day, harm our liberties.
Back in December 2003, Sheriff Bill Young ultimately decided to carry on with Las Vegas's New Year's celebration. So your conclusion was, a day or two or three before New Year's Eve, that the threat wasn't that hard.
Well, it wasn't specific enough to me as to time, method, or place for me to make the call to say, let's cancel this New Year's Eve celebration.
It's too vague.
Too vague.
Long after the celebrations were over, Stephen Sprouse and Kristen Douglas received the disquieting news that they had been swept up in that FBI data dragnet. Found out afterwards that all the hotel records were collected. What went through your head when you heard that?
They have no reason to be looking at me. I don't think that I've done anything to raise any suspicion. So, I mean, just being in Las Vegas on New Year's shouldn't be enough for them to say, well, you know, she might be a terrorist.
I just tell people that we made every effort to safeguard the privacy of everyone whose records were accessed. There was no breach. The information was closely safeguarded.
The FBI says it held all the Vegas for more than 2 years, but has now destroyed it all.
I work with data. I mean, you know, if it's on the computer, it's not really ever gone. It's on a tape, it's on a backup, it's on a drive somewhere.
A more fundamental concern confronts us all. The Fourth Amendment protects us against unreasonable search and seizure without probable cause. So does the strategy of prevention collide with the Constitution?
The government is doing this kind of data mining. Has it moved from individualized suspicion, getting an individual warrant, to generalized suspicion to check everybody to find out who the bad guys are?
Yeah, check everybody. Everybody's a suspect. Everybody's phone records, everybody's email is subject to government scrutiny. And if you're good, we won't bother you. And if you look a little strange, then you might get on a watch list.
Isn't that a huge change in Anglo-Saxon law? I mean, Anglo-Saxon law is based on get a warrant. The Fourth Amendment is based on individual suspicion.
General warrants was part of the reason for the American Revolution. It was that the king's agent could go in and search a house everywhere, search a whole neighborhood with one warrant. And the Boston people said, we don't like that. We'll have a tea party. We'll fight you. We said no.
Look, there's no doubt that there are important Fourth Amendment issues here. One is this a reasonable search and seizure? You can still have warrantless searches, but they have to be reasonable. And then the second question is, does that restriction apply to wartime operations? So we don't require we don't require reasonable searches and seizures when the army, the military is out on the battlefield attacking, killing members of the enemy.
That's usually abroad and it doesn't involve American homeland and American citizens.
But this gets to my point is, do you want to make it more difficult for our government to try to stop terrorist attacks? The closer that members of Al-Qaeda get to the United States, the closer they get to striking our cities as they did on 9/11? You want to make it more legally difficult for the government to stop that? I don't think so.
In our tradition of law, there is this idea that there is private space around the individual, the individual's home, their papers, as it says in the Constitution, that there is a sphere around you that the government can't come into without meeting this level of suspicion. And what I see in all of these developments is the sphere is getting smaller and smaller. We're allowing access to much more information so that maybe the government can't come into that sphere, but they can go all the way around it. They can get the contours, the outlines of your daily life through a lot of this information that isn't protected as well. I think that's what's eroding.
So many people in America think this does not affect them. They've been convinced that these programs are only targeted at suspected terrorists. I'm not engaged in any terrorist activities. Therefore, this does not concern me. There's no way in which I'm going to be caught up in this activity.
And you think that's wrong?
And I think that's wrong. I think that, as I said, I think our technology is not perfect, our programs are not perfect, and it is inevitable that totally innocent Americans are going to be affected by this.
It seems to be like the beginning of we're going to treat everyone like a bad guy to begin with, knowing that most of them are not bad guys. But we're going to start with the assumption that everybody's a bad guy. And then if we just collect the right stuff and connect the right dots, we'll find the real bad guys.
Did you find any terrorists?
No, we didn't.
So when you got to the bottom of it, you found nothing?
Which was on about the 29th of December. We had gone through everything, and we had no identifiable, no known terrorists or terrorist associates.
Later we learned that, in fact, the original intelligence warning about Las Vegas was mistaken. In decoding a suspected Al-Qaeda message, someone got it wrong.
Next time on Frontline,
He's been so vehemently anti-gay.
a conservative mayor,
And now we find him in gay.com.
an aggressive newspaper,
What if he's using the internet to have sex with underage boys?
and a story that took apart a man's life.
The worst thing you can say about somebody is that they're a sexual predator. How do you refute that?
Frontline examines the conflict between the public interest and a hidden life. Next time on Frontline.
To order Frontline's Spying on the Home Front on DVD, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.
Frontline is made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. Additional funding for Frontline is provided by the Park Foundation, with additional funding for this program from the Jet Foundation.
The president's intent was to stay in power at all costs.
This election was stolen.
I flat out said, I swore an oath. I'm not going to break it. I'm not putting on those stinking circus.
They put their faith in Donald Trump, and he deceived them.
I don't think by any large stretch can you characterize it as bipartisan.
The Select Committee laid the path down for the Department of Justice.
Donald Trump is going to be the defendant and the candidate. It's hard to imagine how it's going to play out.
Now on Frontline, democracy on trial.
This program contains mature content which may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
An historic day here in Washington. A federal grand jury here has indicted former President Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump is charged with 3 counts of conspiracy and 1 count of obstruction.
This is the third criminal case brought against the former president this year.
He will now head to appear in federal court for the arraignment. This was not quite the return to Washington this former president had envisioned for himself.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
I won this election by hundreds of thousands of votes. There's no way I lost, Georgia. There's no way. I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Make no mistake, this election was stolen from you, from me, from the country. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
For the first time in American history, a president charged with crimes in office.
The major development in Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation into former President Trump.
Special Counsel Jack Smith will make remarks at a news conference from the Justice Department shortly.
This is a climactic moment, certainly in this investigation.
An indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day.
Jack Smith is sort of like the central casting career federal prosecutor. He's been doing this for 20 years. He has a reputation for being thorough and methodical. He's fairly aggressive, but not reckless aggressive. He's a very formidable opponent for Trump's lawyers.
In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens.
In the middle of a presidential election, a critical moment for American democracy.
It lands us right in the middle of a presidential campaign. It is unavoidably going to be tainted with the appearance of politics at play. Obviously, that's the card that Donald Trump will play.
They waited right to the middle of an election until I became the dominant force in the polls. I got indicted over bull. I got indicted. I get indicted for saying the election was rigged.
If he's convicted, then he's, running for president as someone who has been found guilty of federal crimes.
I love that mugshot. I love that beautiful woman right there with a mugshot.
To say the stakes for that trial are high doesn't even begin to cover it, really. We often, in the media, use the phrase trial of the century for this sensational trial or that one, but really, this would be, I think, the trial of the century. Because I cannot imagine anything more important than a former president on trial, charged with trying to subvert American democracy.
Tensions are still high following the chaos at the Capitol.
The federal indictment has its roots in the aftermath of the January 6th attack.
The chaos here has shaken the U.S. Capitol and the country, our nation's capital, under a state of emergency, under a citywide lockdown.
In Congress, there were calls to create a blue ribbon bipartisan commission. A 9/11 style commission to look into the causes of the attack.
A bill to create a bipartisan commission faces an uphill battle in the Senate.
What was amazing was that the Senate Republicans refused to do that. To do what Congress has done in many previous incidents of great national catastrophe or crisis or controversy, which is to create a bipartisan special committee across both chambers.
Republicans in Congress, led by Senator Mitch McConnell, wouldn't support forming a commission that might go after Trump.
Leader McConnell almost instinctively goes into damage control mode. He's not necessarily going to go out on a limb when the rest of his caucus isn't going to go with him.
In the face of Republican opposition, the Democratic Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, created a committee of her own.
Morning, with great solemnity and sadness, I'm announcing that the House will be establishing a select committee on the January 6th insurrection.
The House of Representatives today did what the Senate would not, voted to create a select committee.
It was the hope of Pelosi and the Democratic majority that they'd be able to pick off at least some Republican support, that there wouldn't be that great a pushback. But in fact, there was, and in the end, only 2 Republicans voted for the formation of that committee. And in fact, those 2 Republicans, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, were the 2 Republicans who ended up serving on the committee.
The fact that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are the only 2 House Republicans who believe that we should know what happened on January 6th, that people should obey subpoenas from Congress, that people should provide documents when requested, and that's itself incredibly astonishing.
They would spend a year and a half examining the evidence. Tim Hafey was the chief investigator. A former U.S. attorney, Hafey led the independent review of the violence in Charlottesville in 2017 and was now taking on January 6th.
We ended up hiring, I think it was 14 or 15 former prosecutors, lawyers that have the skill set to interview witnesses, to digest a large amount of documents, and to sort of discern what's relevant and separate that from what's not. That skill set is developed largely by trying cases, by investigating cases in federal and local prosecutors' offices.
They conducted more than 1,000 interviews.
The House Select Committee is shifting into high gear, preparing to do battle with some pretty big names in the Trump world.
Reviewed millions of documents.
The House Committee probing the January 6th Capitol riot has issued 10 new subpoenas.
Thousands of hours of video evidence.
These subpoenas brings the focus to the actions of former President Donald Trump in the days and weeks leading up to the insurrection.